only leaving a single sentence. The Ling Xiao person has already vanished without a trace. Haha. With the ancestor returning, let's see how arrogant you can be, Su Jie. Emperor Shuhai was full of excitement, gritting his teeth, as if he could already see the Kunlun mirror returning, with Su Jie trampled under the ancestor's feet. This scene was not only happening at the Nine Heavens Holy Land. In the Heavenly Derivation Holy Land, a domineering man holding the reincarnation spear and wearing purple phosphorus armor soared to the sky. His battle intent seemed to pierce through the firmament. At the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land, Gue Yuanzi held the immortal slaying sword, cutting through the sky with a slash, and the sword intent was unrestrained for 100,000 miles. As the concentration of chaotic airflow in the Tianyuan world increased, although crossing realm cultivators could not enter with their true spirits, they could still control the physical bodies they left in the past to perform activities. Yao Guangxi area. 5 figures appeared here in succession. They were the Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate from the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land, the Lingxiao Heavenly Venerate from the 9 Heavens Holy Land, the Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate from the Heavenly Derivation Holy Land, the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate from the Yang Palace Holy Land, and the Xingyue Heavenly Venerate from the Divine Mechanism Holy Land. The term Heavenly Venerable is a title of respect for crossing Dao cultivators. At present, these 4 men and 1 woman represented the strongest power of the 5 great holy lands. All were crossing Dao cultivators. Among them, the youngest in age had lived for several 100,000 years, and the longest had lived for more than 2 million years, roughly equivalent to the time it took for upright apes to evolve into modern humans. In a blink of a millennium, the immortal corpse appears again. This time, there are no more obstacles. Dressed in an ancient long shirt, with empty gaze, and the immortal slaying sword hanging at the waist, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate slowly opened his mouth. We should thank Tian Wu for finding the traces of this immortal corpse. Otherwise, we would still be like headless flies in the Tao River, bitterly seeking other elusive traces of immortality. Wearing the phoenix feather robe, surrounded by chaotic airflow, carrying the chaos banner, the graceful Xingyue Heavenly Venerate chuckled lightly. The location of the immortal corpse, usually impossible to find, was exposed this time due to the Heavenly Dao, a rare opportunity. Don't mention that person, it's unlucky. The Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, holding the reincarnation spear, snorted coldly. 1,000 years ago, when Emperor Tianwu was still in the cave void realm, he somehow managed to find the immortal corpse in the Tianyuan world and obtained a segment of an immortal finger, using it to break through to the crossing realm. At that time, there were no chaotic tides. Crossing Dao cultivators simply couldn't enter the Tianyuan world, and could do nothing about it at all. Later, after finally finding a chance, the 3 heavenly venerates Lingxiao, Ningxuan, and Qiyang joined forces to deal a severe blow to Emperor Tianwu. Unfortunately, the spatial vortex representing the location of the immortal corpse had long changed positions, never revealing itself for many years. This time I want to retrieve the Kunlun mirror. Leave the young one named Su Jie to me. Lingxiao's voice was cold, with killing intent surging in his eyes. In the past, it was Tian Wu, and now it's Su Jie, both claiming the Kunlun mirror, the prized possession of their 9 Heavens Holy Land, and flaunting it outside. This time, no matter what, he intends to take it back and return it to its rightful owner. Heh! The Kunlun mirror doesn't have your name on it. Whoever gets it, it's theirs. Wearing a golden robe, with the heavenly suppressing cauldron suspended above his head, Qiyang Emperor, looking almost like a god, showed no courtesy. Lingxiao's lip twitched, his face darkened. Among the heavenly venerates of the 5 great holy lands, whoever lacked an immortal treasure would be embarrassed. Who could have expected to encounter the thief Emperor Tianwu, who, by borrowing the immortal treasure for the Holy Land's Emperor Dongshu to refine the Tao divine patterns, ended up having it stolen by Emperor Tianwu, and now it sits in Su Jie's hands. Are you going to oppose me, Qiyang? Ling Xiao glared coldly. Heavenly venerates were not entirely in harmony, as there were gaps and conflicts among them as well. Without the Kunlun mirror, do you think you can defeat me? Qiyang revealed a mocking smile, holding an immortal treasure as a crossing Dao heavenly venerable. and being a crossing Dao heavenly venerable without an immortal treasure, were on completely different levels of combat power. Enough talk. The life of that youngster named Su Jie. I have decided to take it. Ningxuan heavenly venerate thrusted the reincarnation spear, piercing directly through the seabed, revealing a space-time vortex. He hasn't forgotten about Su Jie. If the past timeline couldn't solve it, then he will kill him again in the present world. I want to use his head to pay tribute to the Holy Land. Guiyuan heavenly venerate's expression was icy cold. Su Jie's actions towards the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land have compelled him to harbor a killing intent towards Su Jie. It's fair to say that all 5 heavenly venerates held murderous intent towards Su Jie. After all, what Su Jie did to the 5 great holy lands was even more egregious than what Emperor Tianwu did. At least Emperor Tianwu did not rob openly, extort, deceive, and cause the holy lands to lose face. This disgrace must be avenged. Upon stepping into the space vortex, after a dizzying spin, Su Jie found himself in a dense forest. Towering ancient trees, each 100 zhang tall, seemed like a sea of green. As the breeze blew by, the tree crowns swayed like waves. Looking up, the sky resembled an oil painting, presenting peculiar, grotesque, and distorted colors. Normally, with Su Jie's divine sense strength, he could instantly sweep millions of miles, observing as if viewing the pattern on his palm. But upon arriving in this world, Su Jie's divine sense was greatly suppressed, its strength reduced to a mere thread. Immortal power! Su Jie's lips moved slightly, sensing a faint, invisible suppression in the void. Even for a crossing Dao cultivator, it's impossible to suppress Su Jie's divine sense to this extent. Clearly, it's the pressure wave emitted by the immortal corpse suppressing everything in this world. It is said that even after a tiger dies, its might lingers. Ordinary animals won't dare approach even a dead tiger, let alone an immortal from legend. This pressure is indiscriminate, suppressing not just the divine sense, but even the physical body, meridians, and spiritual power are uniformly suppressed. Even flying becomes more challenging than outside. The 1,000-handed centipede and annual ringworm, having evolved by integrating immortal blood gene, are most sensitive to immortal aura. At this moment, feeling this invisible pressure, they both curled up in Su Jie's arms, showing only a little head, looking around. Such strong pressure. Han Ruyan's expression turned solemn. Even as a ghost, this immortal power treated her equally, severely limiting her strength. Su Jie took out the Kunlun mirror, which had been slowly repairing the remaining cracks on its surface since arriving here. It was absorbing energy unknown to Su Jie, repairing its own damage. Ha! Su Jie carefully searched, immersing his divine sense into the Kunlun mirror, intending to check its condition. As soon as he connected, Su Jie seemed to see a misty white light, incomprehensible and unfathomable, vast like the source of the great Tao, belonging to neither any known physical law, its energy rules and operation methods completely beyond Su Jie's understanding. As soon as he touched it, Su Jie felt his mind swayed, as if his divine soul was about to be obliterated by this white light. When Su Jie withdrew from the Kunlun mirror's connection, reality returned to calmness, as if everything before was an illusion, except for Su Jie's slightly pale face. The energy absorbed by the Kunlun mirror was of too high a level, and without the aid of the Kunlun mirror, Su Jie wouldn't have been able to observe it. This thing, could it really be the energy controlled by immortals? Immortal Qi, or perhaps immortal power? Su Jie's heart was touched. Cultivators absorb spiritual energy, converting it into spiritual power stored in the Dantian. Crossing Dao cultivators can absorb chaotic Qi flows, which is a higher level of energy. If immortals can master even more advanced energy than the chaotic Qi flows, it makes sense. Ning Yuning picked up a handful of soil from the ground, 5-colored glow spreading through the soil. Surprised, 5 elements spiritual soil. All of it is 5 elements spiritual soil. Hearing this, Su Jie couldn't help but show shock. When Su Jie was still in the Yunling realm, he relied on a handful of 5 elements spiritual soil to successfully grow the lotus seed of the 9-grade sacred lotus, showcasing the preciousness of the 5 elements spiritual soil, an extremely rare spirit soil in Tianyuan world, worth more than gold. Yet in this unknown space, all the soil is composed of 5 elements spiritual soil. Han Ruyan approached the trees, tapping on them. The trunks and leaves were far harder than steel, worthy of being called treasure tree, with tree bodies strong enough to rival magical treasures without any refinement. No wonder it's an immortal. This burial ground is beyond our imagination. Su Jie sighed. In ordinary wealthy families, it's critical to be buried in a feng shui treasure land after death. If it's an imperial burial, it closely considers dragon veins and dragon pits, accompanied by green mountains and rivers, based on gold and treasure materials. Ordinary poor folks can't even imagine such a scene. And for an immortal's burial site, it's equally unimaginable for Su Jie and others. In this space, even a casual shovelful could exchange for a large quantity of top-grade spirit stones outside. It's hard to imagine the staggering wealth of this immortal burial site stretching for countless miles. Fortunately, Su Jie hadn't forgotten his purpose for coming here. Mere wealth is similar to dirt for Su Jie at this point. What attracts Su Jie is only the quest for strength. With enough strength, wealth will naturally gather. Having wealth without strength is but an illusory castle in the air. Just when Su Jie was sighing, suddenly the 1,000-handed centipede in his arms let out a warning cry, staring intently at an ancient towering tree in the forest. There, a certain insect-like creature with a crystal-clear body and 8 limbs was perched. Its size was barely over a zhong. Its body like made of green crystal, with its internal blood vessels and organs clearly visible, leisurely chewing on the crown's green leaves. Its mouthpiece opened and closed, easily chewing the leaves hard as magical treasures into chaff, swallowing them into its stomach. This guy should be herbivorous. Ning Yunying hadn't finished speaking when the soil beneath the giant tree exploded. A shadow flashed by. The green crystal insect had already fallen into a bloody mouth, crunched and chewed, crystal fragments drifting down. It was a creature similar to a gecko, over 10 meters long, its body also crystal, with densely sharp teeth in its mouth, biting off and swallowing the green crystal insect in a few bites. Its eyes, like red rubies, stared intensely at Su Jie and others, jumping back and forth in the forest, rapidly approaching. This one clearly eats meat. Ning Yunying shrugged helplessly after catching Su Jie's gaze. The gecko creature came whistling over. Although it had never seen such strange creatures as humans, anything that moved and was smaller than itself was part of its diet. Bam! Su Jie rolled up his sleeves and personally struck, launching a punch that landed on the forehead of the gecko creature. Ow! The gecko creature howled in agony as most of its head was shattered, its body hitting the ground and twisting frantically amidst flying sand and stones. Su Jie was somewhat surprised. Even though his strength and cultivation were severely weakened by the suppression of immortal power, and he hadn't used full force earlier, he had only managed to shatter half of the adversary's head, which was unexpected. Taking 2 steps forward, Su Jie grabbed the narrow tail of this gecko, applying slight pressure to crack the crystalline tissues, whose hardness was rather beyond imagination. Boom! Su Jie exerted force with both hands, directly tearing the gecko in half. While it's transparent, oil like blood flowed out. The gecko creature completely lost life and ceased its struggle. Examining the gecko's corpse in his hand, Su Jie noted that outside, this crystalline corpse would be a coveted treasure for artifact refiners and alchemists, perfect for artifact refining and alchemy. Let's go have a look over there. Su Jie discarded the corpse and pointed to a distant mountain. As the Kunlun mirror continued to repair itself slowly, he chose not to use this immortal treasure for travel and decided to proceed by foot. In the following days, Su Jie began wandering around this world. Along the way, Su Jie encountered various peculiar and bizarre crystalline creatures. Some ignored him completely, while others attacked him instantly, fiercely ruthless. Among them, some powerful crystalline creatures had combat prowess comparable to the Purple Mansion cultivators of the outside world. Yet, these crystalline creatures couldn't stop Su Jie's progression. Even with his power suppressed by immortal power, Dealing with these crystalline creatures was an easy task. Su Jie speculated that perhaps these crystalline creatures were life forms born due to the radiation emitted by the immortal corpse. Because within these crystalline creatures, there was occasionally a faint trace of immortal qi, although very thin and hard to detect. This discovery provided Su Jie with a direction to move towards, head towards regions with the most crystalline creatures and where their individual strength was the highest. Given that crystalline creatures were affected by the immortal corpse's radiation, the closer to the immortal corpse, the more radiation they absorbed, subsequently increasing the number and strength of these creatures. Keeping this line of thought, Su Jie continued to search throughout this world. 2 days passed swiftly. It was now night. The campfire crackled as Ning Yunying rotated the roasting meat, releasing an enticing aroma of golden juicy roast that attracted the thousand-hand centipede bouncing towards her. "Go ahead and eat." Ning Yunying cut off pieces of roast to feed the thousand-hand centipede, which was made from the essence flesh of a certain chaotic creature. "Any breakthrough?" Han Ruyan leaned against a big tree, her black hair fluttered by the wind, and asked Su Jie. "I'm currently analyzing." Sitting cross-legged on the ground with a map he had drawn himself on his knees, Su Jie answered. During these 2 days, Su Jie traveled across many areas of this world. He wasn't sure if this was the core of Tianyuan or a separate subspace, or a certain crevice in the Tao River. The area was far larger than he imagined. Consequently, Su Jie's map couldn't fully capture the entirety of this world, and he hadn't yet found the region where crystalline creatures were the most densely populated. After pondering, Su Jie reluctantly put away his map and took out the Kunlun mirror. After 2 days of self-recovery, the Kunlun mirror absorbed the immortal qi that Su Jie couldn't perceive. Most of its cracks had healed, and the remaining cracks would be fully repaired in about a day. In another day, the Kunlun mirror can be used to travel, and I'll quickly complete the map by then. Su Jie remarked as the suppression of immortal power in this world made moving, whether on foot or flying, far less convenient. "Care for some food?" Ning Yunying offered Su Jie a piece of golden roast meat. Su Jie took it, munching a couple of bites. Ning Yunying drew near, wafting a faint, feminine fragrance. "I have a thought. When searching for the immortal corpse, why not create a massive commotion to attract the crystalline creature's attention? I've observed these creatures have territorial awareness. If the noise is substantial enough, perhaps the most powerful crystalline creatures will actively attack. Tracking them could lead us back to their lair, which might be the immortal corpse's burial ground." Ning Yunying glanced at the Kunlun mirror in Su Jie's hand and proposed an idea. Su Jie paused, staring at Ning Yunying. "Why didn't you mention this earlier?" "I just thought of it." Ning Yunying rolled her eyes. "All right, if we find the immortal corpse, you'll take the credit." Su Jie smiled, pondering how to create a big commotion when suddenly his ears faintly vibrated. Rumble. In the distant sky, thunder split the heavens apart, transforming 1,000 miles of space into a blinding sea of thunder. Faintly visible in the center of the sea was a figure holding a long spear, seemingly attempting to pierce through the cosmos. "That's the reincarnation spear." Su Jie sensed the somewhat familiar aura. His eyes narrowed with a chilling gleam. The Crossing Dao Ancestor Master of Heavenly Derivation Holy Land, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Ning Yunying's gaze was solemn as she revealed the person's identity. The reincarnation spear belonged to the Crossing Dao Ancestor Master of Heavenly Derivation Holy Land, whose presence here was self-explanatory. "Hey, dear sister. It seems someone has already used your plan." Su Jie patted himself off, standing up, his eyes fixed on the Thunder Sea. "Can Crossing True Spirit enter Tianyuan world?" Han Ruyan was perplexed, sensing that the Wei Nengwei she felt was somewhat mismatched with the Crossing Dao Ancestor Master. "No, it's a crossing shell with a fragment of true spirit merged into it," Su Jie explained, revealing Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's secret. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate appearing here suggests the other 4 Crossing Dao Ancestor Masters might also have entered this world. Our competition just got tougher. Understanding the Crossing Dao Ancestor Master's power, even just a shell of a physical body, Ning Yunying knew they could sweep across Emperor Dongshu, let alone possessing the immortal treasure reincarnation spear. The competitive pressure heightened rapidly. These crossing Dao ancestor masters were undoubtedly also here for the immortal corpse, with them causing chaos. Acquiring the immortal corpse became significantly more challenging. Indeed, not having any pressure is unrealistic, but since we've come this far, there's no turning back. Besides, it's just a shell. Su Jie's eyes sparkled with battle intent, a hint of cold smile hanging at his lips. Although Su Jie didn't know Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's appearance, he recognized the reincarnation spear. Back on Blue Star's past timeline, the adversary disguised as Su Jie's mother tried to eliminate him as a baby, causing Su Jie to never forget this matter. Husband, when should we act? Han Ruyan asked bluntly, knowing Su Jie's temper well. By observing Su Jie's demeanor, she could tell he was planning to deal with Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. As his wife, she naturally supported him, as it wasn't the first time they did something like this. No hurry, let's see which crystalline creatures he can lure first. If there's an opportunity, we might as well go for something easy, but if things don't go well, we'll just wait and see. Su Jie didn't act recklessly. Though it was just a shell of a physical body, even with the reincarnation spear, Su Jie was confident he could take it down. However, Su Jie was unclear on the whereabouts of other crossing Dao ancestor masters. If he acted rashly and provoked them to appear, he might end up being surrounded. Su Jie knew well what he was doing, not mentioning the grudges of 9 Heavens Holy Land and 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land. Other holy lands had also been extorted by Su Jie. The Dao ancestor masters of these holy lands would definitely set aside their differences to gang up on Su Jie. This realistic awareness was something Su Jie possessed. In the vast sky, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable transformed into a sea of lightning, the reincarnation spear tearing through the firmament, with pitch-black spatial rifts raging, and chaotic chi flows spreading in all directions. This tremendous disturbance dropped a heavy bombshell on this originally tranquil world. Sounds of hissing and roaring from numerous crystal creatures echoed through the forest, with many crystal creatures flying toward the Mingxian Emperor, actively initiating attacks. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable wore an indifferent expression, as a sweep of the reincarnation spear turned a stretch of crystal creatures into fragments dancing in the air, the sky resembling a downpour of crystal rain. For Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable, although influenced by the heavenly might, these ordinary crystal creatures were not worthy of his attention. After entering this world, the 5 Heavenly Venerables scattered from each other. In the face of the immortal corpse, they were competitors and naturally wouldn't walk together. In the past 2 days, Ningxuan gradually discovered the vastness of the world, and to find the immortal corpse, he had to take the initiative to make big waves. One by one, crystal creatures were slain, their bodies constantly falling from the sky dome. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable advanced while slaughtering, unrestrainedly causing a massive massacre, with the commotion growing ever larger. Roar! From a distant part of the forest, a roar of thunderous sound echoed. A crystal flying dragon, as if made of ruby, emerged with wings spanning over 100 meters, exuding a powerful oppression from its crystal body as it charged straight into the sea of lightning Ningxuan Emperor had created. Whoosh! As it approached, the crystal flying dragon breathed out, spewing a scorching dragon flame that burned a gap in the lightning sea, landing on the ground, directly melting a vast magma lake into the 5 elements spiritual soil. With a cold smile on his lips, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable saw that the strength of this crystal flying dragon barely reached the combat power of a hollow great emperor, but it was still nowhere enough in front of him. With a thrust of the reincarnation spear, the domineering and terrifying spear shadow pierced through the sky, tearing through space as if leaving an unhealed dark and ugly scar on the sky dome, penetrating the crystal flying dragon's chest cavity. Bang! The crystal flying dragon let out a mournful cry as transparent blood, like machine oil, rolled from its chest, severely injured with just one strike. Terror unconcealably showed in its eyes as it turned to flap its wings, fleeing from Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable held the reincarnation spear, allowing the crystal flying dragon to escape. In fact, with his combat power, He could have easily ended the crystal flying dragon's life with that first strike. He held back to let the crystal flying dragon lead the way. From a distance, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable followed the trail of the crystal flying dragon, trailing behind it. The severely injured crystal flying dragon remained oblivious, only thinking of returning to its lair to recover, entirely unaware it had become Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable's guide. In the time it takes for a cup of tea, a towering peak appeared on the horizon. The crystal flying dragon accelerated its flight into a natural underground cave within the mountain. Minutes later, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable followed closely behind, his face lighting up with joy upon spotting the entrance to the underground cave. After so many days, he finally found a clue. Without hesitation, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable flew into the cave. Inside this cave, multicolored crystals grew profusely, expanding as they went deeper, resembling an underground world inhabited by numerous crystal creatures, each as formidable as the crystal flying dragon. This outsider, Mingxian Emperor, immediately became the target of all. The injured crystal flying dragon roared furiously upon seeing Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable. Over a dozen formidable crystal creatures erupted with violence, choosing to besiege Xianming Heavenly Venerable. A fierce battle erupted instantly. Though Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable was alone, it was a one-sided fight, with nearly every spear strike blasting apart a crystal creature. In less than a minute, no crystal creature was left intact. "You beasts dare challenge me." Flicking the blood from the reincarnation spear, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable spoke disdainfully and continued to stride deeper into the underground world. With nearly every step deeper, he encountered more or fewer crystal creatures, and the deeper he went, the stronger the crystal creature's prowess became. But none of these posed any threat to Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable. Instead, they further strengthened his conviction that he was in the right place. This underground cave with such potent crystal creatures likely influenced by the immortal corpse. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed, and Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable had ventured extremely deep into the underground cave. Along this path, the number of crystal creatures felled by his hand was countless, and even Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable showed signs of fatigue. However, this fatigue was instantly dispelled upon seeing a crystal lake. This vast lake, spanning 1,000 kilometers in diameter, held not water but countless transparent crystalline dust particles surging like water, clear and unobstructed. What truly caught Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable's attention was in the very center of the crystal lake, a vermilion coffin at the lake's bottom. "Finally found it!" Overjoyed, Ningxuan Emperor eagerly rushed forward. Boom! At this moment, the surface of the crystal lake exploded, and a colossal crystal python several kilometers long emerged, opening its blood-red maw to devour Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable. Courting death. Blocked right in front of the immortal corpse, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerable's fury was uncontainable, and with the reincarnation spear in hand, he aimed to slay the crystal python. But this time, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate couldn't swiftly resolve the opponent. The crystal python had occupied the immortal corpse coffin for countless years, driving away other crystal beings, constantly benefiting from the radiation of the immortal corpse, greatly enhancing its power. Even when the reincarnation spear struck, its body only slightly cracked. Although Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's power was significantly suppressed in this world due to the immortal power, it was enough to prove the terrifying might of the crystal python. One man and one serpent fought fiercely, soon showing varying degrees of injuries. Overall, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate had a slight advantage, as he held the reincarnation spear. Half an hour later, the battle drew to a close. The crystal python coiled and squeezed Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, causing blood to flow from the corner of his mouth, but its attacks now stopped. For the reincarnation spear had pierced through its head, its eyes fading into emptiness. Just a mere beast. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate was about to relax when suddenly an alarm surged, and an intangible murderous intent enveloped him. Before he could react, a terrifying curse covered him. This curse power, mingled with twisted life pollution, might have been manageable at his peak, but now caught him in a moment of relaxation with injuries. Suddenly, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's heart twisted, followed by his organs, transforming into grotesque creatures with tiny tentacles, sharp teeth, and gaping mouths, furiously gnawing on his flesh, even emerging from his abdomen, writhing continuously. Who? Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's face changed drastically, trying to seal the curse within, while searching for the enemy. It's your grandpa, me? With a flicker, Su Jie appeared behind Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, the Kunlun mirror casting its light on him. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate tracked the crystal flying dragon, unaware of the mantis stalking the cicada, while Su Jie approached inconspicuously, delivering a fatal strike at the crucial moment. Swoosh! Facing Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, who also wielded the immortal treasure reincarnation spear, Su Jie showed no mercy and struck with lethal intent, using the fully restored Kunlun mirror to launch an attack. The Kunlun mirror reflected Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's image, and a brilliant radiance burst from its surface. An attack targeting the divine soul, especially effective since Ningxuan Emperor was merely a crossing shell with just a fragmented true spirit inside. Ah! Su Jie, I want you dead. Ningxuan Emperor let out a painful howl, his eyes bloodshot, followed by the rupturing of his eyeballs, bleeding from the 7 orifices. Thud! Ningxuan Emperor wielded the reincarnation spear, urgently stabbing towards the Kunlun mirror, as Su Jie retreated 2 steps after putting it away. Multiple layers of flickering reflections emerged, like a dreamlike world at the spear tip of reincarnation, suckling into different cycles, unsettling Su Jie's mind as though being plunged into those reincarnated worlds. Strangely, Su Jie seemed to have returned to his high school days, going through review, the college entrance examination, studying, marrying, and having children. In middle age, faced with difficulties from superiors, enduring layoffs and optimizations, which led to a family crisis, his wife's misunderstanding, and the indifference of his children, ultimately ending in divorce. In his later years, experiencing a twilight romance, reassembling a family, living a mundane life. Until buried in the ground, Su Jie was completely unaware he was the Emperor Dongshu, who established the Jekka group, admired by thousands as the supreme leader, and swept across the Holy Land in the Tianyuan world as the Emperor Xingyuan. It seemed all of this from Su Jie's ordinary perspective carried no deeper meaning, mundane, devoid of the power he once held, losing all that high status. In this life, Su Jie never activated the Kunlun mirror, nor ventured to Tianyuan world, as if all he'd experienced was mere illusion, this being his true life path. Husband, be careful. Han Rian pressed her palm against Su Jie's back. She too mastered soul and reincarnation laws, though inferior to the reincarnation spear, but Ningxuan Emperor wasn't in peak condition, instantly clearing Su Jie's delusion. If you want me dead, let's send you on your way first. After recovering, Su Jie glared at Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate with a sinister smile, the Kunlun mirror shining again, while Han Rian assisted, wielding the 10 million soul banner, revealing underworld scenes, helping Su Jie restrain the reincarnation spear. Thousands lights of the vast Tao. Su Jie, holding the Kunlun mirror in his left hand, unleashed billions of light rays, transforming into ultimate destructive energies, sweeping out like a torrent. Meanwhile, Su Jie's right hand grabbed the mixed element Holy Thunder Tree, its roots entangling Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's feet, tightly restraining him without leaving an escape. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Already injured, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate struggled to defend, his body punctured by countless arrows, bursting open with wounds, resembling a beehive, leaving no intact flesh. Even so, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate did not perish, for he was merely a physical body shell, and the one truly controlling it was the split-off true spirit of Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate twisted his body, grasping the reincarnation spear, breaking free from Han Rian's restraint, slashing off the feet controlled by the mixed element Holy Thunder Tree, turning his head to flee. I, Ningxuan, will remember this grudge. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate cast a venomous glance at Su Jie, then at the immortal corpse coffin in the crystal lake, his eyes filled with despair, not expecting to be denied the immortal corpse at the last moment to be robbed by Su Jie. But now, realizing he was no match for Su Jie. Not seizing this chance to flee meant losing the opportunity altogether. Nevertheless, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate wanted to escape. Su Jie wouldn't grant him the chance. Just as he entered the void to escape, the ground of the cave suddenly collapsed, and the thousand-hand centipede emerged from below. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate stared wide-eyed, on the verge of reacting, when an invisible space-time ripple froze him in place. It was the annual ringworm's doing. Its power of space-time quietly halted Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Though frozen only briefly, milliseconds at most, it was sufficient for this level of battle strength, essentially sentencing death. Before Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate could break free, the thousand-hand centipede lunged, biting off Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's head in one bite. Until his head fell, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's eyes remained wide open, seemingly in disbelief, dying at Su Jie's hands. Without its head, the reincarnation spear in Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's hand buzzed. Husband, Ningxuan's true spirit is attached to the reincarnation spear. Han Ruyan wielded the 10 million soul banner, attempting to trap the reincarnation spear, obliterating the contained crossing true spirit to acquire this immortal treasure. I know. Su Jie advanced quickly, firmly grasping the reincarnation spear. The spear vibrated more intensely, splitting Su Jie's palm, yet he refused to release it, instead lifting the Kunlun mirror, casting its radiance repeatedly, eradicating the true spirit within. Open! Su Jie's divine soul emerged, transforming into a chaos dharma, its surface covered in Tao divine patterns, relentlessly crashing into the reincarnation spear, provoking further resonance. Despite Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's true spirit infused in the reincarnation spear, it failed to fully harness the immortal treasure's true power. Gradually, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's true spirit weakened. Su Jie, you will regret it. Ultimately, accompanied by a feint in Su Jie's ears, the vengeful roar, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's fragment of true spirit was fully eradicated. With a clatter, the uncontrolled reincarnation spear fell to the ground, its brilliance dimmed, resembling an ordinary black long spear, devoid of its previous miraculousness. Yet, Su Jie knew this to be one of the 5 great immortal treasures, comparable to the Kunlun mirror. Surely Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate in death never imagined entering to find the immortal corpse would leave empty-handed, even losing the reincarnation spear, suffering a double loss. Su Jie lifted the samsara spear with one hand. The spear body was about 1 zhang and 2 qi in length. Exuding an ink-black hue, the spearhead gleamed with specks of silver light and felt substantial in his grasp. Whoosh! With a forceful arm, Su Jie thrust the samsara spear straight ahead. A sound like ghosts wailing and wolves howling echoed in the air. The void shattered inch by inch, leaving a hideous space rift that took a long time to mend, and the spear tip flashed with floating lights and shadows passing by, seemingly birthing ephemeral worlds like bubbles that burst like illusions, that eerie cycle of samsara looming over Su Jie's heart. Dear, give it a try. Su Jie called out to Han Ruyan, handing the samsara spear to her. Han Ruyan reached out with her slender jade hand, grasping the samsara spear. Upon contact with the cold spear body, she instantly felt a wondrous connection within her heart, as though the spear was an extension of her own flesh and blood. Swoosh! Mimicking Su Jie's earlier motion, Han Ruyan also thrust out with the spear. The samsara spear pierced through the void, creating irreparable space cracks, directly stabbing into the cavern wall below. An eerie scene unfolded. The entire hard cavern wall dissolved like a false dream into foam, sometimes transforming into stunningly beautiful dreamlike floral seas, or incomprehensible twisted scenes. This was the power of reincarnation of the samsara spear, turning real objects into cycles of dreaminess, fully wielded by Han Ruyan. Indeed, this celestial treasure suits you well. Su Jie clapped his hands, revealing a just as expected expression. Han Ruyan herself wielded the laws of soul and reincarnation. Even the grotto heaven refined by Han Ruyan was modeled after the mythical underworld, the place where souls reincarnated after death according to legends. It could be said that the Samsara Spear is seamlessly compatible in Han Rian's hands, achieving an effect greater than 1+1. Thank you, husband. Han Rian did not modestly refuse. Her eyes showed immense fondness for the Samsara Spear. This weapon was perfectly suited for her. Thank what? There's no need for clear distinctions between us. Su Jie chuckled. He now had the Kunlun mirror, with too many celestial treasures to control. Enhancing Han Rian's power was the same as boosting Su Jie's own strength. Ning Yunying saw this scene, and it was false to say she was not envious. Such ultimate weapons as celestial treasures are adored by all strong individuals. Yet Ning Yunying was only envious. Her relationship with Su Jie was not as intimate as Han Rian's. The celestial treasure was acquired by Su Jie. Whom he wished to give it to, she wouldn't question. Let's go, look at that coffin. After allocating the Samsara Spear to Han Rian, Su Jie did not delay further. Although obtaining the Samsara Spear was a joyful occasion, the focus was now on the immortal corpse, pivotal for advancing the crossing path. Plop! Su Jie plunged into the crystal lake, swimming directly to the location of the scarlet coffin. The closer he got, the stronger the invisible pressure of immortal power in the void, making it almost suffocating. Fortunately, Su Jie was no ordinary person. Holding his breath to calm his wildly beating heart, inching towards the scarlet coffin. The coffin's hue was scarlet, its surface engraved with ancient obscure patterns, seemingly carved in extremely old times, recording major events of ancient eras. On the coffin lid, small sprouting green buds grew. As the lake water surged towards it, it was repelled by the immortal power. This coffin actually floated in the middle of the lake without contacting any material. At this moment, even Su Jie couldn't help feeling nervous. For inside that coffin lay, according to legend, an immortal corpse. Yet having come this far, there was no reason to retreat. Su Jie took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, placing both hands on the coffin lid, gently pushed it open. Crunch! Rustle! In the air resonated an acerbic friction sound. Su Jie pried the coffin cover apart a crack. Rainbow treasure lights shot skyward. Within the treasure lights floated countless tiny characters as small as fly specks. Each character seemed to possess stellar power, making direct eye contact unbearable. These characters were, unexpectedly, composed entirely of Tao Divine patterns, numbering millions more than the Tao Divine patterns owned by Su Jie's Chaos Dharma form. Moreover, the ancient patterns engraved on the coffin radiated dazzling brilliance. These patterns seemed to come alive, pulsating across the coffin, infinitely mysterious. Vaguely within these patterns, Su Jie saw one image, beings of myriad races kneeling in worship within a desolated universe, billions of stars shimmering vividly, as if celebrating the revival of a great existence. In the dark, desolate Tao river of the universe, a figure was swimming upstream, eyes seemingly penetrating through time, gazing far at Su Jie. Open! Su Jie's mind became somewhat dazed. Daring not to linger, he exerted strength with both arms, fully pushing the coffin lid open. In an instant, all the dazzling lights dispersed. The extraordinary ancient patterns on the coffin dimmed, as if all that had just transpired were Su Jie's illusions. Bang! The lid lifted up. Inside the coffin emanated a blurred rainbow starlight, faintly revealing a figure lying quietly inside, whose age couldn't be determined nor gender distinguished. But when Su Jie stared upon it, it didn't appear to be a corpse, but an infinite vast universe Tao. As if akin to the Tao root itself, it seemed infinitely large, wider than the universe, or infinitely small, smaller than a quark, transcending the Planck length limit. This is the immortal corpse. Ning Yunying was both nervous and excited. Even someone as usually composed as her couldn't hide her excitement after seeing the immortal corpse. Immortal beings are the ultimate pursuit of countless cultivators in the Tianyuan world. The thousand-hand centipede and the annual ring worm. After Su Jie lifted the coffin lid, burrowed into his embrace, peeking out cautiously. Not good, the immortal treasure. The reincarnation spear in Han Rian's hand suddenly became unruly, trying to fly into the coffin. Even the Kunlun mirror in Su Jie's hand was acting similarly. If Su Jie weren't forcibly controlling it, the mirror would have flown out of his grasp. From afar, 3 crossing Dao heavenly venerables, wielding the chaos banner, the immortal slaying sword, and the heavenly suppressing cauldron, also sensed the immortal treasure's disturbance and began rapidly approaching the direction of the immortal corpse. This is troublesome. Su Jie had a bad premonition and dared not delay any longer. He stepped forward and first paid respects to the immortal corpse. Junior Su Jie, I apologize for disturbing the immortal venerable today, as I take a portion of the immortal blood. I hope the immortal venerable can forgive me. Thank you immensely. Though Su Jie's words were polite, his actions were quick as a strand of sword chi emerged from his fingertips, stabbing towards the immortal's wrist. Yet, as soon as the sword chi entered that hazy starlight domain where the immortal was buried, it naturally dissipated, having no effect whatsoever. Su Jie frowned, trying once more to break through the immortal corpse's defense using other means. Han Ruyan, Ning Yunying, and the Thousand-Hand Centipede also attempted to create a breach with their respective abilities, but to no avail. Even after countless years of death, the immortal corpse still possessed an unfathomable power, rendering all attacks ineffective. No mention of breaking its defense. The attacks didn't even cause a ripple, nor did the coffin budge. It was as if they were striking not a corpse but an infinite cosmic universe, making all attacks seem small and powerless. Looks like I have to use this. Su Jie understood in his heart and pointed to the reincarnation spear in Han Ruyan's hand. At this point, probably only the immortal treasure could truly affect this immortal corpse. Han Ruyan understood Su Jie's intentions. She nodded gravely, wielding the reincarnation spear to pierce the coffin. This time, the vague starlight inside the coffin was penetrated without obstruction, as the spear tip pierced a hole in the immortal corpse's wrist, causing immortal blood to flow out. But as the attacker, Han Ruyan's face also turned pale, as if affected by some backlash. Are you okay? Su Jie asked with concern. The immortal treasure is backlashing the soul, but it's still within bearable limits. Han Ruyan slowly closed her eyes, meditating to recover from the divine soul's damage. As Su Jie and Han Ruyan conversed, the first drop of immortal blood began to flow, suspending itself in the air. The immortal blood appeared ordinary at first glance, its color similar to regular blood. Yet within, the dazzling origins of the Tao gleamed like a vast star sea, containing endless profound principles of the Tao. Just staring at it could cause a tremendous impact on one's divine soul, as if it were about to dissolve completely. Su Jie dared not look too long, using the Kunlun mirror to cut through the void and create a void bottle. Normal means couldn't contain the immortal blood. Storage bags couldn't bear its power, as the blood itself could cause the void to fracture and collapse. Furthermore, once out of the body, the immortal blood quickly evaporated in the air. If not handled promptly, it would be utterly wasted. Fortunately, Su Jie had already prepared countermeasures before coming here. Using the Kunlun mirror, he fashioned a void bottle, tearing a piece of his own skin to wrap it. The skin, imbued with the gravitational effects of the neutron combat body, continuously kept the immortal blood's gravitational pull intact, preventing it from dispersing. This operation successfully stored the immortal blood. A radiant smile appeared on Su Jie's face. Success. The second drop of immortal blood. The third drop of immortal blood. One by one, the drops of immortal blood flowed out continuously, as Su Jie crafted more void bottles, storing each drop separately. Su Jie's robust constitution allowed such skin-tearing wounds to heal instantly, as flesh would regrow in no time, facilitating this process. After extracting dozens of drops from the wound, the immortal corpse's injury slowly began healing. Though it was supposed to be a corpse, it behaved like a living person. Witnessing this, even Su Jie felt a twinge of fear. This thing won't reanimate, will it? Unease crept into Su Jie's heart. Considering the sacrilege against the immortal corpse, if it were alive, Su Jie would certainly have no chance of survival. Putting himself in the immortal's place, if disturbed by tomb raiders after death and bled, he would surely slam the coffin lid shut and swat the raiders dead. But as the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. Faced with the immortal blood, Su Jie's feelings of fear were still overshadowed by excitement and eagerness. What's there to fear? People die just once, and if not, they live forever. Gritting his teeth, Su Jie took the reincarnation spear from Han Ruyan's hand and made another incision on the immortal corpse. Again, the immortal blood gushed forth, and Su Jie finally experienced what Han Ruyan felt earlier. It was as if his soul was being torn apart, a pain akin to refining Tao divine patterns, hammering his soul with the Kunlun mirror but several times more intense. Hiss! Su Jie gasped, gritting his teeth against the pain. Su Jie, look! Ning Yunying pointed toward the immortal corpse's head, having discovered something. Su Jie followed her gaze, noticing the immortal corpse's eyelid had twitched slightly. Oh no! Su Jie's heart skipped a beat, his face turning pale with terror. Was this thing truly dead? Or was it just playing tricks? How terrifying! Su Jie was afraid that too much blood extraction would wake up the immortal corpse. It's all right, it's just natural nerve reflexes, it couldn't possibly be alive. Su Jie's eye twitched slightly as he silently reassured himself. Faced with immortal blood, even with the risk of this immortal corpse reanimating, Su Jie was all in. The immortal blood was continuously wrapped by void bottles. Each drop seemed like a rare treasure, holding Su Jie's gaze and making his heart surge with excitement. Once, a single drop of immortal blood Su Jie obtained directly caused a life explosion on a dead star, giving birth to a new life system. Su Jie thus gained vast heavenly Dao fortune from that planet, which enabled him to thoroughly refine Blue Star. In Su Jie's eyes, this immortal blood was his hope for advancing to the crossing realm. Naturally, the more the better, and each additional drop increased his advancement success rate, enhancing his foundation. Next, Thousand-Handed Centipede and Ning Yunying also took turns. After the immortal corpse's wound healed, they began attacking with the reincarnation spear to keep the immortal blood flowing. Soon, hundreds of void bottles floated in the air, each filled with a sparkling drop of immortal blood. To the immortal corpse, this blood meant little, but to Su Jie, it was immense wealth for building his supreme Dao foundation. Such an amount of immortal blood far exceeded what was needed to advance to a crossing realm cultivator. Almost enough. Su Jie felt it was enough, thinking that further acquisition might result in his divine soul not being able to withstand the backlash from the immortal treasure. Sweetheart, Shao Qian, Little Nian, sister-in-law, prepare to retreat. Su Jie watched as the immortal corpse's wound gradually healed, the last few drops of immortal blood trickling out. Just as Su Jie planned to collect the final few drops and make a getaway, several immense pressures arrived almost simultaneously, smashing down with oppressive power. Soon, several figures appeared before the underground crystal lake, with looks of shock and greed at the immortal corpse and the collected hundreds of drops of immortal blood. Qi Yang Heavenly Venerate from Yang Palace Holy Land. Ling Shao Heavenly Venerate from 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land. Xingyue Heavenly Venerate from Divine Mechanism Holy Land. Ning Yunying identified them. These were the figures standing at the pinnacle of Tianyuan world. Su Jie also looked over, exchanging glances before flashing a smile, moving swiftly to gather all the void bottles, open the void door with the Kunlun mirror, grabbing Han Ruyan and Ning Yunying in each hand, with Thousand-Handed Centipede and Annual Ringworm clinging to his shoulders, ready to escape through the void door. However, Su Jie's usually infallible of 36 stratagems, fleeing is the best strategy, failed this time. Chaotic chi flow spread through the void like an interference device, making the void door unstable and erratic, followed by invisible suppressing forces covering and fixing this void, depriving the Kunlun mirror of its traversing capability. The smile on Su Jie's face disappeared instantaneously. The fact is, smiles do not vanish, they merely transfer to others. Now it's someone else's turn to smile. You cannot leave in my presence. Xingyue Heavenly Venerate chuckled lightly, her eyes full of playful gleam, holding the Chaos Banner, with the Chaos Chi flow cascading like a waterfall, sealing off the Kunlun mirror's void door. Unexpected that you got here first, but no worries. Everything you have will eventually be ours. The heavenly suppressing cauldron hovering above Qi Yang heavenly venerate swayed, suppressing the sky, also restraining the void door. The combined force of the two immortal treasures kept the Kunlun mirror from traversing. The reincarnation spear. Where is Ningxuan heavenly venerate? Ling Shao heavenly venerate stared at Su Jie and at the reincarnation spear in Han Rian's hand. Everyone knew the reincarnation spear belonged to Ningxuan heavenly venerate. Now suddenly in Su Jie's possession, an unbelievable speculation surfaced in Ling Shao heavenly venerate and the other two venerates' minds. At this moment, facing the accusations of Guiyuan heavenly venerable, Xingyue heavenly venerable, and Qiyang heavenly venerable, anyone else would have long been scared out of their wits and submitted on the spot. After all, the three of them represent the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land, the Divine Mechanism Holy Land, and the Yang Palace Holy Land, and no one could remain calm in the face of three crossing Dao cultivators. However, the one standing here was Su Jie, acclaimed as the strongest emperor under crossing Dao in the Tianyuan world, and he would not lose his composure. You speak of Ming Xian, the ground you're standing on is his burial place. Be wise and make way, or else you'll follow in his footsteps. Su Jie tugged at the corner of his mouth, secretly thinking he was unlucky. He had intended to use the Kunlun mirror to slip away, but who would have thought the Kunlun mirror would also have a day of failure? Nevertheless, losing to people, but not losing face, Su Jie stood tall, his defiant gaze fixed on the three crossing Dao heavenly venerables as if he completely disregarded them. Humph! At death's door and still so stubborn. Qiyang heavenly venerable's temper was explosive, enraged by Su Jie's words. The heavenly suppressing cauldron above his head swayed, causing the void to crack like a spider web, transforming into a chaos of darkness, with terrifying power to suppress the heavens and crush stars. Ming Xian was also a useless one, actually dying at the hands of this guy. Indeed, the heavenly derivation Holy Land has now declined. Xingyue heavenly venerable spoke slowly. Her posture was graceful, her beauty unrivaled, with a pair of bright eyes exuding a faint cold elegance. The immortal treasure chaos banner fluttered behind her in the wind, surrounded by chaotic chi flow, akin to a goddess above the heavens, possessing an ethereal quality untouched by mortal dust. Guiyuan slowly drew the immortal slaying sword with his right hand. His gaze swept past Ning Yunying beside Su Jie, and a voice as cold as millennium ice resounded. Today, encountering two enemies of the Holy Land at once, it's just right to deal with both. Su Jie attacked the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land, subduing many void great emperors from the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land. Even the top-tier Emperor Wanfa died at Su Jie's hands, resulting in an irreconcilable blood feud with the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land. Ning Yunying, the Holy Daughter, chose to defect from the Holy Land, a sin unforgivable to Guiyuan heavenly venerable of the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Land. As Guiyuan's cold gaze swept past, Ning Yunying felt as if her divine soul was shocked, as if pierced by 10,000 swords. Quite a boastful mouth. Does this old guy have such strength? Su Jie calmly stepped in front of Ning Yunying, taking on Guiyuan's pressure for her. Ning Yunying felt a slight relief in her heart, strangely comforted by Su Jie's broad back. Having not made a move for 10,000 years, it seems the future generations have forgotten our reputation. Today, I'll teach you, Junior, what the wrath of a heavenly venerable entails. Guiyuan remained expressionless, his eyes filled with killing intent. The immortal slaying sword in his hand transformed into a cold light, like a crescent moon descending suddenly to the earth, or the Milky Way falling down from the 9 heavens. Heaven and earth were split apart by this sword. Under the terrifying sword light, all matter seemed as if it would disintegrate and shatter. As if you're the only one with immortal treasure. Su Jie held the Kunlun mirror in both hands, the mirror surface reflecting myriad brilliance, each brilliance shining like starlight, transforming the void ahead into a twisted black hole, colliding with and extinguishing the sword light of the immortal slaying sword. In a silent clash, the two terrifying forces collided, turning the void into a vitreous hue, piercing through the boundary wall crystal. Even under the suppression of immortal power, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable was not a true spirit, merely manipulating a physical body shell. If the true spirit were to strike this sword, its power would be unimaginably more terrifying. Swish! With rich combat experience, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable, after slashing with a sword, had already advanced close to Su Jie, the cold sword edge cutting towards Su Jie's neck, intending to behead Su Jie. Clang! Su Jie remained unfazed, using the Kunlun mirror as a shield. The mirror surface twisted the void in front, slowing the immortal slaying sword as if it were mud flowing into the sea. Mirror flower water moon. In the next instant, a brilliance flashed across the Kunlun mirror's surface, reflecting an identical image. A mirrored Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable wielding the immortal slaying sword emerged from the Kunlun mirror, stabbing towards Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable like a true sword immortal, with might no less than Guiyuan Heavenly Venerables. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable, being well acquainted with the Kunlun mirror, was long prepared. As the mirror image attacked, he horizontally swung the immortal slaying sword. Upon collision, tiny sword chi pieces emanated from 36,000 pores around him, cocooning himself and disconnecting the Kunlun mirror's focus. Without a corresponding object, the mirror image projected by the Kunlun mirror with diminished power was easily slain by him. However, before Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable could breathe a sigh of relief, Su Jie suddenly transformed into a 10-zhang tall void body. A grin twisted on his face as he threw a punch, its speed 10 times faster than his sword light, rendering any defense impossible. Not right. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's spirit jolted, suddenly realizing something was amiss. Time rippled like water, silently encompassing him, revealing that it wasn't Su Jie's attack speed that increased, but rather his awareness response that slowed. It was time. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable discovered that the annual ringworm clinging to Su Jie's shoulder was behind the mischief. Almost in the instant the annual ringworm subtly acted, the 1,000-hand centipede launched its assault, its mouth spewing and transforming the void into viscous glue, its mastery of space law further slowing Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's actions. Realizing this, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable attempted to react, but it was too late. Su Jie's fist, akin to a stellar sun plummeting down, smashed into Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's body. At this moment, the neutron combat body intensely compressed and condensed matter, and the Sun Fusion Divine Scripture unleashed a massive energy, the combination of the two astronomically amplifying the might of Su Jie's fist. Boom! Flesh splattered and bones shattered, as Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's chest cavity was punched into a hollow by Su Jie. His left arm and heart crushed, the torn chest cavity revealing writhing internal organs. Blood spraying forth like money was no object. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's face changed dramatically. He originally wanted to take down Su Jie first to show his dominance, but instead, he became the one making a fool of himself. Su Jie, the 1,000-hand centipede, and the annual ringworm had a seamless cooperation, 3 against 1, which was an absolute oppression for Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable. Quickly come and help. This guy is tricky. At this moment, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable finally understood how Ming Xian died. He couldn't care less about saving face now. If this continued, he would be beaten to death by Su Jie. Qiyang, stop watching the show and join forces. Xingyue Heavenly Venerable stepped forward. Although she didn't get along well with Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable, she wanted to eliminate Su Jie first. The immortal blood in Su Jie's hands was reason enough for her. Just what I wanted. This kid's skull would make a nice addition to my collection. Qiyang Heavenly Venerable chuckled freely, advancing together with Xingyue Heavenly Venerable to encircle Su Jie from both sides. Qiyang Heavenly Venerable was the first to strike, with the heavenly suppressing cauldron shaking the sky dome above his head, as if the whole vault of heavens was being shattered and destroyed, with cracks spreading towards Su Jie. Sizzle! The 1,000-hand centipede roared, turning into tens of meters in size, lunging towards Qiyang Heavenly Venerable. Vile creature! Qiyang Heavenly Venerable's expression remained unchanged, the heavenly suppressing cauldron expanding continuously, smashing onto the 1,000-hand centipede, shattering its solid scale armor and drawing blood. However, this only aroused the fierce nature of the thousand-hand centipede, with pale corpse hands stretching and clawing, collapsing the void, launching a crazy attack on Qiyang Heavenly Venerable. Su Jie, of course, did not just stand by idly. As the opponent made a move, Su Jie stepped forward boldly, his fist wind pounding down like a storm. Humph! Qiyang Heavenly Venerable snorted coldly. The Yang Palace Holy Land was the most skilled in close combat among the 5 great holy lands. The 9-turn transforming Taoist skill he cultivated was an unparalleled body-refining holy skill. As a crossing Dao cultivator of the Yang Palace Holy Land, Qiyang Heavenly Venerable's physique was naturally terrifying, and the physical body shell he left behind was the strongest among crossing Dao cultivators. As only the physical body shell could enter the Tianyuan world to fight, it's no exaggeration to say that Qiyang Heavenly Venerable was the strongest among crossing Dao cultivators. The battle between Su Jie and Qiyang Heavenly Venerable quickly reached a white-hot intensity. The annual ringworm provided auxiliary support, using the power of time to limit Qiyang Heavenly Venerable, enabling Su Jie's punches to land on the opponent from time to time. However, the opponent's physique was extraordinarily strong, and Su Jie's attacks couldn't cause effects like they did on Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable. They could only cause the opponent to bleed from the mouth and suffer broken bones, which quickly healed. And Qiyang Heavenly Venerable's attacks also landed on Su Jie from time to time, causing injuries to Su Jie. But with the neutron combat body, his injuries also healed rapidly. Their attacks turned into instant shadows of lightning, crossing each other back and forth in the underground cave, like 2 intersecting laser beams, destroying the void and all material, engaging in a fierce battle. Xingyue Emperor initially intended to cooperate with Qiyang Heavenly Venerable to attack Su Jie, but Han Ruyan, wielding the reincarnation spear in one hand and the 10 million soul banner in the other, blocked her path. Your opponent is me. Han Ruyan's dead-cold eyes looked at Xingyue Heavenly Venerable, not giving Xingyue Emperor any chance to besiege Su Jie. A mere female ghost wants to stop me. Xingyue Heavenly Venerable's gaze was contemptuous. Even under the suppression of immortal power, she was not in her complete form, but she considered handling Han Ruyan, this female ghost, a piece of cake. Without any superfluous words, the battle between the 2 women began instantly as they locked eyes. Whoa! Xingyue Heavenly Venerable unfurled the Chaos Banner, its fabric depicting the scene of the Tao River, with chaotic creatures swimming within, chaos heavenly calamity rampant, and a magnificent figure of an immortal subduing the Tao. Once the Chaos Banner blossomed, the turbulent chaos sea surged forth, infecting every inch of space. Savage chaotic creatures and fearsome chaos heavenly calamities were born, more terrifying than those true creatures and calamities of the Tao River. 18 levels of hell. Han Ruyan also unfurled the 10 million soul banner, with scenes of hell emerging layer by layer, and the howling of countless souls resonating heaven and earth, forming a sinister and terrifying infernal array. The Chaos Banner and the 10 million soul banner floated in the air, clashing with each other, making the 18 levels of hell tremble and shake. Souls and departed spirits wailed, unable to bear the powers of immortal treasures, as the 10 million soul banner could not compare to a real immortal treasure. Yet this kind of immortal treasure Han Ruyan had won herself. The reincarnation spear stabbed like a poisonous snake, from a tricky angle, combining curse power, pierced at Xingyue Heavenly Venerable's heart. Xingyu Emperor's delicate face slightly altered in color, for she discovered Han Ruyan's curse power was corroding and damaging her body, while the reincarnation spearhead, enveloped with the reincarnation dream, caused her spirit to feel dazed. Swoosh! The Chaos Banner was called back by Xingyu Emperor for protection, forming a close-quarters magic artifact, blocking the curse corrosion and the reincarnation spear, while the surging chaotic chi flow transformed into a mighty river, continually charging towards Han Ruyan and the 18 levels of hell. Even though both were women, their battle was as perilous and intense as that of Su Jie and Qiyang Heavenly Venerable. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable did not immediately engage in the melee. He took this opportunity to try and heal his injuries, planning to join the battle later to finally take down Su Jie. However, his plan was well conceived, but he overlooked one person. Ning Yuning appeared behind Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable at some point, holding the 10,000 dragon pearl with her right hand, gathering the power of 10,000 dragons, delivering a punch towards Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's head. It was Su Jie who, amidst the battle, used the Kunlun mirror to open the void door, sending Ning Yuning behind Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable. Although the Kunlun mirror was suppressed by the Chaos Banner and the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, preventing it from traversing across the starry sky, there was no problem with short-distance void travel. And Ning Yuning did not waste the opportunity given by Su Jie. Her punch hit Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's head squarely. It was also because Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable had overlooked Ning Yuning. Perhaps to him, Su Jie and Han Ruyan were the threats, while Ning Yuning, having recently achieved Hollow, was not even noticed by him. Thus, caught off guard, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable was hit so hard that his eyes went dark. His brain almost turned to mush by the shock. "I'll tear you apart." Being sneak attacked by the former holy daughter of his own sect, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable suddenly flew into a rage, turning the immortal slaying sword into a kilometer-long giant sword, wanting to slice Ning Yuning into particles to vent his resentment. Ning Yuning was very clever, withdrawing immediately after her successful strike, avoiding direct confrontation with Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable. Even though she had the 10,000 dragon pearl and Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable was heavily injured by Su Jie, he wasn't someone she could recklessly provoke. A moment of inattention could cost her life here. She only needed to delay Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable, preventing him from paying attention to the other battlefields and slowing his healing, which she did quite well. With the opening of the 3 battlefields, the scene seemed to have reached a stalemate. Su Jie and his team couldn't defeat the 3 Crossing Dao cultivators and escape, nor could the 3 Crossing Dao cultivators take down Su Jie and his team. Yet Su Jie knew in his heart that if this continued, the situation would become increasingly unfavorable, as the 3 great Crossing Dao Heavenly Venerates possessed immortal treasures and were in their Crossing Dao shells, excelling in a prolonged battle. On Su Jie's side, if any of the battlefields showed signs of decline, it would snowball, leading to a defeat in the battle. Moreover, Su Jie hadn't forgotten that with the appearance of the 4 great Crossing Dao Heavenly Venerates, the last one, Ling Shao Heavenly Venerate from the 9 Heavens Holy Land, who was the predecessor of the Kunlun Mirror's former owner, had yet to enter this world. With this thought, a ruthless glint flashed in Su Jie's eyes, and he suddenly took out a void bottle, opening it and swallowing the immortal blood inside. Since an ordinary battle couldn't take them down, he could only resort to drugs for a burst of power. The blood of immortals contained enormous terrifying energy, and Su Jie's action was also a gamble, but at this moment, he had to go all out, as the longer the battle dragged on, the slimmer the chances of victory. "Watch out! This guy's going all out." Seeing Su Jie swallowing the immortal blood, Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable visibly tensed up. The raw, untreated original immortal blood had a power that was too violent and massive. Almost as soon as Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable's voice fell, a terrifying energy burst forth from within Su Jie, as if millions of nuclear bombs had detonated inside him. Su Jie's skin cracked, revealing bloody muscle layers, and even his internal organs began naturally disintegrating and dissolving, with destructive energy surging inside Su Jie. As this drop of immortal blood was swallowed into his stomach, Su Jie's entire body's blood and energy surged like a dragon's steam, his flesh dissolving in large areas, even revealing his white bones. On those exposed bones, dense, ancient patterns could be seen imprinted upon them, and even on a microscopic level, each cell bore a primitive and desolate pattern. This was the profound mystery of the great Tao contained within the immortal blood, eroding and destroying Su Jie's body in an unreasonable way, but at the same time, it granted Su Jie unparalleled strength. The transformation happened too quickly, and by the time the 3 Crossing Dao Heavenly Venerates noticed, they had already begun to retreat cautiously. Su Jie clenched his fist, an intense discomfort spreading through his body. He knew he had to resolve the battle quickly, or else the aftereffects of the immortal blood would spread from his body to his soul, which would be a major problem. With this thought, Su Jie charged towards the Qi Yang Heavenly Venerate in front of him. Before he even arrived, The fierce wind from Su Jie's fist was already causing the face of the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate to tremble. Worse still, the power contained within the immortal blood also erupted with Su Jie's punch, transforming into a surging river of blood and energy, vaguely forming a shadow of a figure behind Su Jie, as if a deity awakening from slumber, overlooking all living beings. Bang! The Qiyang Heavenly Venerate blocked with both arms, but with just one punch, his face changed drastically, and he couldn't help but retreat repeatedly, unable to withstand this massive force from Su Jie. Even the hard bones in his arms were starting to crack. Boom! 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 Su Jie seized the advantage, relentlessly chasing and pounding the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate. At this point, Su Jie's body was like a furnace of blood and energy about to explode, with the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate being the best target to vent on, allowing Su Jie to fight with overflowing pleasure and comfort. But as an opponent, the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate was extremely unlucky. Originally, his physical strength was nearly on par with Su Jie's, making it an even match. However, after consuming the immortal blood, the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate fell completely behind in physical combat. Even though he summoned the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, Su Jie had the Kunlun Mirror, and with the aid of the annual ringworm using the power of time to restrict it, it became a disgusting nuisance. After exchanging dozens of rounds, the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate was already battered and bruised, with bones broken in large areas, meridians torn apart, and his breath becoming thick and messy, retreating repeatedly while gasping. Seeing the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate struggling to withstand Su Jie, the Xingyue Heavenly Venerate wanted to interfere in the battle, but was firmly blocked by Han Ruyan, with the thousand-handed centipede assisting Han Ruyan, denying the opportunity. Instead, the Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate, whose injuries had healed significantly, had no intention of stepping forward when seeing the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate being beaten, but instead bypassed Ning Yunying, suddenly running towards the direction of Su Jie's back, which was the Crystal Lake. His target was the coffin containing the immortal corpse. Though he was currently on the same side with the Xingyue Heavenly Venerate and Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, and held a grudge against Su Jie, in the face of the interest in the immortal corpse, such so-called cooperation could be abandoned at any time. Compared to obtaining immortal blood from Su Jie at this moment, he could easily acquire immortal blood from the unguarded immortal corpse. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate even thought it best if Su Jie and Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, Han Ruyan, and Xingyue Heavenly Venerate all perished together, allowing him to enjoy all the benefits alone. Guiyuan. The Qiyang Heavenly Venerate saw Guiyuan's action, not helping but instead heading for the immortal corpse, as if it wasn't obvious what his intention was. Xingyue Heavenly Venerate also had a flickering gaze, somewhat eager to move. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate turned a deaf ear, and after arriving in front of the coffin, the immortal slaying sword unhesitatingly slashed down, piercing into the coffin, opening a wound on the immortal corpse, allowing the immortal blood to flow out. All mine. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate's eyes were full of greed as he took out a crystal jade bottle from his storage bag. He had prepared in advance, as it was a special container capable of holding immortal blood, crafted from rare spiritual materials and a part of the Chaos Lord's body. One drop of immortal blood floated up, then a second drop, a third drop. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate was collecting with delight, completely ignoring the fierce battle between the Xingyue Heavenly Venerate and the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, especially the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, who was being beaten so badly even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Xingyue Heavenly Venerate inwardly cursed him as shameless, then turned to glance at Su Jie, evaluating the situation and finding Su Jie difficult to defeat. She had no doubt that even if Su Jie were to die, he could drag them down with him. So Xingyue Heavenly Venerate pondered left and right and finally chose to avoid Han Ruyan and headed towards Guiyuan Heavenly Venerate. Han Ruyan initially wanted to stop her, but seeing the direction Xingyue Heavenly Venerate was headed, she immediately understood and voluntarily made way. "Husband, I'm here to help you." Without opponents, Han Ruyan attacked Qiyang Heavenly Venerate with Su Jie, especially with her reincarnation spear, aiming straight for the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate's vital points. Against two, Qiyang Heavenly Venerate was being beaten even worse. If not for the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron's strong defense, he would have perished there. At this moment, Qiyang Heavenly Venerate had lost his will to fight and proactively said, Su Jie, let's stop. Continuing to fight is not beneficial for either of us. I'll let you go. He was infuriated by Guiyuan and Xingyue's actions. He had been struggling here to hold back Su Jie, while the others were profiting massively over there, and if Su Jie managed to kill him in the end, it would be futile. Hearing this, Su Jie looked at the Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, protected by the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, as hard as a turtle shell, making it difficult to kill him in a short time. Consider yourself lucky, now get lost. Su Jie ultimately decided against continuing to beat up Qiyang Heavenly Venerate. After all, his goal had been achieved, and further attacking Qiyang Heavenly Venerate would only increase his own risk. Having ingested the immortal blood, Su Jie was not in a good state. Though he seemed vigorous now, once the effects of the immortal blood wore off, it was uncertain how much fighting power remained. Rather, leaving Qiyang Heavenly Venerate to let the three of them bite each other like dogs seemed better. With such thoughts, Su Jie gestured to Han Ruyan and Ning Yunying, preparing to leave this place. Qiyang Heavenly Venerate quickly ran toward the immortal corpse. Seeing Xingyu Heavenly Venerate and Guiyuan both continuously obtaining immortal blood, his eyes turned red. You too. That immortal blood is partly mine too. With a roar, just as Qiyang Heavenly Venerate was about to join the feast of splitting the immortal blood, Xingyu Heavenly Venerate and Guiyuan suddenly froze, looking as if they had seen a ghost. Perhaps due to their rough way of extracting blood, the immortal corpse suddenly opened its eyes at some point, a pair of merciless, lifeless eyes watching the trio before him. Simultaneously, an immense immortal power, 100 times stronger and heavier than before, erupted like a tsunami. Everyone's immortal treasure began trembling uncontrollably. Su Jie, who was opening the void door to leave, found the Kunlun mirror losing its divine effectiveness, the void door crumbling on its own. As Su Jie turned his head, his eyes protruded suddenly. A chill rose from his feet, enveloping his heart. Resurrection. Su Jie could hardly believe his eyes. The immortal corpse, dead for countless years, had truly risen from the dead, resurrected. Almost the instant the immortal corpse opened its eyes, a thunderous Tao heavenly sound came from the void. The Tao River began to flow backward, and this world started to shake violently. The sky dome covered with black cracks as the world headed towards fragmentation. Run! Not good! Xingyu Heavenly Venerate and Guiyuan were horrified, their souls almost frightened out of their bodies by the eye-opening immortal corpse. Even as they coveted the immortal blood, they knew how terrifying a resurrected immortal was, an unstoppable force. Without a second thought, Xingyu Heavenly Venerate and Guiyuan turned to flee, including Qiyang Heavenly Venerate who was about to join the fray. They ran fast like dogs chasing. Needless to say, Su Jie, as Kunlun Mirror was unusable, upon discovering the immortal corpse had opened its eyes, he was already running at the forefront with Han Ruyan and Ning Yunying. Crack! Crack! The immortal corpse slowly sat up from the coffin, and as he moved, everything began returning to chaotic nothingness, centering on the immortal corpse as all matter and rules started to fall apart. Chaos waves filled with immortal power began sweeping in all directions. Qiyang Heavenly Venerate, running a bit behind, got caught in the waves. Even with the protection of the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, his body started filling with spider web-like cracks, seemingly about to shatter any second. Qiyang Heavenly Venerate flushed red, exerting all his strength, pushing his potential to the limit, fleeing desperately. If his physical body fell here it was one thing, but if he lost the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, he'd have nowhere to cry. You too, who told you to extract blood like that, putting me at such risk. Qiyang Heavenly Venerate discovered some cracks appearing on the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron. Because it was protecting him, this immortal treasure couldn't withstand the immortal's power, making Qiyang Heavenly Venerate heartbreakingly distressed. Seeing this scene, Su Jie somewhat understood how the cracks on the Kunlun Mirror had originated. I've only obtained a dozen drops of immortal blood. It's all Guiyuan's fault. Xingyu Heavenly Venerate also complained. She had gathered so little immortal blood. I've only got 30 drops of immortal blood. Su Jie over there has hundreds of drops. He's the main culprit for causing the immortal corpse's resurrection. Gui Yuan also passed the blame. Su Jie was indeed the one who benefited the most. At this moment, everyone had the same action: to distance themselves from the immortal corpse, to escape this world as quickly as possible. While fleeing, Su Jie glanced back and saw the immortal corpse standing up from the coffin, quietly floating above the lake surface. A pair of indifferent, cold eyes seemed to be looking at the Tao River in the void, completely ignoring Su Jie and the others. Yet the aura naturally emitted by the immortal corpse destroyed all living beings and matter, like humans walking, indifferent to whether they crushed an ant. To the immortal corpse, the so-called crossing Tao cultivator was akin to ants. Damn it! The immortal corpse has truly come alive. With twitching lips, Su Jie finally confirmed this. While extracting immortal blood earlier, noticing the immortal corpse's eyelids twitch made him feel something wasn't right. Now, the immortal corpse had indeed resurrected. The group ran at top speed, daring not to pause, trying to stay as far away from the immortal corpse as possible. Heading towards the underwater vortex where they initially came in, perhaps the best way back to Tianyuan world. Su Jie, it really is you. But as he fled, suddenly a shout echoed. Seeing a figure turning into a streak of light racing towards Su Jie, the person was none other than the crossing Tao cultivator of Nine Heavens' Holy Land, Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate. Without an immortal treasure, he sensed a fierce battle exploding in the underground cave, hurriedly arriving late. Get lost. I'm not in the mood to mess with you now. Su Jie raised the Kunlun mirror, its surface shining brightly, forcing Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate to dodge, which instead ignited Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's fighting spirit. His eyes firmly fixed on the Kunlun mirror in Su Jie's hand, determined to seize it back. But before he could act, he suddenly saw 3 familiar figures running over. Ha! Su Jie, let's see where you run today. Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate saw Gui Yuan and others. Thinking they were also here to deal with Su Jie, he couldn't help but smile. Yet the next moment, Gui Yuan, Xingyu, and Qiyang acted as if they hadn't seen him, swiftly passing by, flying towards the distance, completely ignoring Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's presence. Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's smile froze on his face, unable to comprehend what was happening. But soon he understood why these people had a frantic look as if their butts were on fire. Behind him, a boundless wave of chaos and void swept, engulfing all matter. Everything returned to the most basic destruction, physically erased with no consideration for reasoning. What the heck? Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate was stunned, looking incredulous. In the chaos wave, he vaguely saw an incredibly mighty figure. Just one glance made his soul ache and almost collapse. Rumble! Before Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate could react, the chaotic void wave struck him. The crossing Tao physical body shell in front of this wave was like a castle built of sand. Collapsing upon contact, the flesh was first turned into mush, then it was annihilated into void. Even that little true spirit was extinguished, disappearing completely. Seeing Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's end, Su Jie and others ran even faster. Su Jie continued trying to use the Kunlun mirror. Eventually, possibly distant enough from the immortal corpse, the Kunlun mirror regained its effect. Su Jie quickly opened the void door. Go, go, go! Without hesitation, Su Jie pushed Han Ruyan and Ning Yunying into the void door, following closely with the 1,000-handed centipede and annual ringworm. However, whether or not it was Su Jie's illusion, he felt as if before leaving, the immortal corpse seemed to glance at him, making his heart feel uneasy. Qiyang and the others watched enviously yet jealously, but their immortal treasures lacked such traversing ability, merely watching as Su Jie left with lots of immortal blood. They dared not pause at all, desperately fleeing. Ultimately, before this world was utterly destroyed, the 3 successfully escaped without any mishap. In the midst of the chaotic void wave, the resurrecting immortal corpse remained expressionless. Yet when the Kunlun mirror opened the void door, he inexplicably reacted slightly, his gaze vaguely directed towards the final direction where Su Jie disappeared. Kunlun. A hint of confusion and trance flashed in the immortal corpse's eyes, seemingly regaining a bit of intellect from the corpse state, stimulated by the Kunlun mirror. Lowering his head, he lifted an arm, missing a finger, dazedly muttering to himself, "I am an immortal now. I am Tun Tianwu." The lingering intelligence gradually faded from his eyes, the immortal corpse's gaze showing a hint of struggle. Before his last bit of intellect dissipated, he actively tore the void, entered the Tao River, disappearing without a trace. Blue star moon. Above a lunar crater, the space first cracked open into a seam, and then rapidly expanded into a light blue void door. Ning Yuning and Han Ruyen stepped out one after another, followed by Su Jie, who landed on the lunar soil, bringing along the 1,000-hand centipede and the annual ringworm. "We're out." Su Jie showed a smile of survival after disaster. If he ran a bit slower after the resurrection of the immortal corpse, even leaving a complete body would be difficult. "My husband, your injuries." Han Ruyen's eyes showed worry, as Su Jie was currently in poor condition. "It's not too bad. Don't worry about me." As Su Jie spoke, the movement tugged on his cheek muscles, causing his skin to instantly tear open, revealing his ghastly white gums. At this moment, all of Su Jie's skin and muscles had become incredibly fragile, tearing at the slightest movement. This was the aftermath of consuming immortal blood, which began to erupt within Su Jie's body. Han Ruyen was not comforted but instead, even more worried. How could Su Jie look like he was fine in this state? Consuming immortal blood for a short-term burst of combat power surely wouldn't come without some cost. Sizzle. The 1,000-hand centipede wiggled its antennae on top, actively returning its qi and blood to Su Jie, attempting to help him replenish the consumed qi and blood. Su Jie patted the 1,000-hand centipede, casually sat cross-legged on the ground, and began to mobilize the qi and blood around him to combat the aftereffects of the immortal blood. Calling it an aftereffect isn't quite right, as what was now rooted within Su Jie's body was the remnants of the fundamental truths of the immortal blood's Tao. Don't be fooled. Su Jie only swallowed a drop of immortal blood, but most of its energy actually dissipated. Su Jie absorbed only a small part, and the efficiency was quite low. Yet, because the fraction of immortal blood absorbed was untreated, various domineering genes within started aggressively attacking Su Jie's body, like cancer cells, perpetually devouring and transforming his normal cells. Notably, the Tao's fundamental truths, like maggots clinging to bones, stem from certain prime source power within the immortal corpse, continuously enveloping Su Jie's body, akin to some powerful curse. In fact, the Tao's fundamental truths represent the ultimate goal direction of mastering Tao origins for living beings, much like Tao Platform Realm cultivators mastering Heavenly Might, Purple Mansion cultivators mastering Dharma forms, and Void Realm cultivators refining pocket worlds. This is a power that can only be mastered in the immortal domain. However, as Su Jie was too weak to grasp such advanced power, it resembled more of a curse for living beings. This differs from the immortal blood genes absorbed by the 1,000-hand centipede and the annual ringworm, where the chunk they absorbed amounted to only 1,000th of immortal blood energy and was pre-filtered. They skipped absorbing the most domineering substance in the immortal blood. Unknowingly, Su Jie began operating the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill, which he had already cultivated to the fullest level. Drip, drip. Su Jie's body melted like a candle, inch by inch of flesh turning into mud, falling off the skeleton, and eventually even the bones began to turn into bone powder. Throughout this process, new flesh and bone were also growing simultaneously, as if undergoing scraping bone therapy, shedding the cursed flesh imbued with immortal blood and bringing forth new flesh. The scene was exceedingly terrifying. Ordinary people wouldn't bear to watch, yet Su Jie remained indifferent, repeatedly dissolving his physical body dozens of times, only then barely removing the curse of immortal blood from his body, no longer affected. However, Su Jie couldn't be happy yet, as a twisted and complex fundamental truth of the Tao had already polluted part of Su Jie's soul. Su Jie could use the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill to rid his flesh, but it was another case when it came to the soul, which wasn't as easy. Swipe. Above Su Jie's head, his soul exited and transformed into the Chaos Dharma form, revealing in the vortex single eye of the Chaos Dharma form a faint, incomprehensible circular pattern, looking closely like a miniature head-to-tail winding Tao River. Since Su Jie couldn't utilize such a transcendingly controlled power, its fundamental truth of the Tao was continuously destroying Su Jie's soul, manifesting in the Dharma form with occasional autonomous trembling, body cracking, and wounds. Thud. Su Jie tried striking with the Kunlun mirror, akin to refining Tao divine patterns, testing if he could cleanse these fundamental truths of the Tao. The results were evident. Su Jie's soul reverberated under the strikes, causing him pain, yet he couldn't truly remove this fundamental truth. It's understandable, as fundamental truths of the Tao involve the immortal domain, certainly not something easily accomplished. Fortunately, Su Jie's soul was usually stored within the Kunlun mirror, and given that Su Jie's soul, due to cultivating the black hole all things technique, could still barely endure this fragment of the Tao's fundamental truth, it hardly impacted Su Jie's combat power. Perhaps it's not all a bad thing. Su Jie kept a positive mindset, seeing the inability to clean this rooted fundamental truth within the soul as perhaps the best way to comprehend the immortal domain. Although currently unable to touch this advanced level, once elevated to the crossing realm where true spirit merges with the heavenly Tao, new understanding might emerge. Thinking of this, Su Jie took out several void bottles from the storage bag. A total of 368 drops of immortal blood. Su Jie's gaze swept over these void bottles. The sheer quantity of 368 drops of immortal blood made Su Jie forget the influence of the Tao fundamental curse, his mouth showing an uncontrollable smile. Not in vain did he take this adventurous toil. The vast immortal blood present was the best reward for Su Jie's effort. Big sister, this is for you. Su Jie extracted 18 drops from the immortal blood and gave them to Ning Yuning. Actually, this amount of immortal blood far exceeded Su Jie's needs. He didn't need so much to advance to the crossing realm, so he didn't mind giving Ning Yuning some. Thank you. Ning Yuning didn't stand on ceremony with Su Jie. She had plans to rely on immortal blood for cultivation. The 10,000 tribulations nirvana technique required tribulation, and absorbing immortal blood was a terrifying catastrophe. Didn't you see how Su Jie was cursed so terribly when he consumed it? Remember to be careful yourself. Separate and filter the immortal blood first. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Don't end up killing yourself. Su Jie reminded, just in case Ning Yuning overdosed. Ning Xinyue would be heartbroken. I'm not as reckless as you. Ning Yuning rolled her eyes. She's not dumb. How could she possibly consume whole drops of original immortal blood like Su Jie? Su Jie then distributed some of the immortal blood to Han Ruyan, the thousand-handed centipede, and the annual ringworm. Immortal blood was like a panacea. As long as it wasn't recklessly absorbed, it was greatly beneficial to all cultivators, allowing their strength to soar rapidly. Next, I will be in closed cultivation for a period. Having done all this, Su Jie chose to seclude himself. With a large amount of immortal blood in hand, he needed to adjust to his optimal state and perfect his plan for advancing to the crossing realm. Tianyuan World, Yao Guangxi area. The Qiyang, Xingyu, and Gue Yuan Heavenly Venerable had just escaped back here, barely having time to catch their breath, when they felt the full force of rejection between heaven and earth. The chaotic tide has stopped. Xingyu Heavenly Venerable spoke. Once the chaotic tide stopped, Tianyuan World became a virtually impossible place for them crossing Tao cultivators to enter. Let's get out of here first. The true spirit residing in Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's physical body shell trembled. He knew he didn't have much time left and had to return this body shell to the Holy Land promptly, so the true spirit could leave Tianyuan World. Wait. A portion of the immortal blood belongs to me. Qiyang Heavenly Venerable didn't want to let the two leave like this. He did most of the work entering the immortal corpse tomb, endured battles with Su Jie until he was bruised and battered, even cracking the body of the heavenly suppressing cauldron, yet ended up with nothing to show for it. How could he be content? Qiyang, the immortal blood was obtained through our capabilities. You couldn't manage your share, so accept it. Don't dream of getting mine. Xingyu Heavenly Venerable sneered, believing Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable was delusional. The 10 odd drops of immortal blood she obtained with difficulty. How could she possibly give them to Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable? Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable ignored him and directly headed to his holy land, showing no intention of sharing the immortal blood. You won't get away without handing over the immortal blood today. Qi Yang was furious, unable to accept this outcome. He threw a punch at the nearest Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable. Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable's face darkened as she blocked Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable's attack with the Chaos Banner, her eyes quickly darting. Qi Yang, Guiyuan has more immortal blood than anyone, and he was the first to betray us. Why don't you go after him? Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable's eyes turned red as he shifted attention to Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable. Guiyuan, give me half of the immortal blood you possess. Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable shouted angrily, striking Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable with the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron. Fool, Su Jie has more immortal blood in his hands. Why don't you go after him? Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable snorted coldly, the immortal slaying sword transforming into a burst of light, clashing with the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, causing the Yao Guang Sea area to explode, revealing a seabed thousands of meters deep. You dare speak of Su Jie? If not for me bearing Su Jie's pressure, you wouldn't have obtained so much immortal blood. Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable grew increasingly furious, gritting his teeth. You stayed at the battlefield's edge after being injured, benefiting when it suited you. I put in the greatest effort. The bulk of the immortal blood should be mine. Dream on. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable and Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable engaged in fierce battle. The matter of immortal blood was of great importance. He couldn't possibly give any away. Originally allies working together, the two began to slaughter each other. But as the two fought on, Tianyuan World's rejection grew stronger and stronger, causing the true spirit in their physical body shells to melt away like snow in sunlight. Yet even so, Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable showed no signs of stopping. You want mutual destruction. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable recognized Qi Yang's malicious intent. Continuing the fight would lead both their true spirits to be obliterated by the heavenly Tao, leaving the immortal blood unowned. Return the immortal blood to me. Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable fought desperately, insistent on obtaining the immortal blood. Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable grew enraged as he realized he couldn't keep fighting for long. He violently expelled his true spirit, attaching it to the immortal slaying sword, taking along the storage bag, and allowed his physical body to approach Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable. Bang! In the next moment, Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable's physical body exploded. Using this chance, the immortal slaying sword transformed into light, flying beyond the 33 heavens. He'd rather abandon the crossing realm body than give up immortal blood. Guiyuan. A roar came from behind as Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable also left his physical body, attaching his true spirit to the Heavenly Suppressing Cauldron, pursuing Guiyuan Heavenly Venerable with murderous intent. Idiots! On the other side, Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable sensed this scene after returning the physical body to the divine mechanism Holy Land Mountain Gate. The physical body shell was crucial for crossing Dao cultivators to move in Tianyuan World, yet they foolishly destroyed them. Mocking Qi Yang and Guiyuan as idiots, Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable leisurely arranged matters at Holy Land before leaving Tianyuan World, taking the spoils of immortal blood back to Tao River. Whoosh! This true spirit was split from the main true spirit, preparing to return to where the main true spirit resided. Crack! Suddenly, a terrifying pressure rose in the previously calm Tao River, and a figure approached Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable rapidly, followed by a massive hand as large as a star enveloping her. Ling Xiao. Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable was shocked and angry. The attacker turned out to be Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate, who died at the hands of Immortal Corpse. Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's body shell perished in the Immortal Corpse tomb. Now appearing here was Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's true spirit body, likewise attempting to seize the immortal blood from Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable. The fight quickly erupted in Tao River. Although she wielded the Chaos Banner, Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable couldn't contend with Ling Xiao Heavenly Venerate's true spirit body. In a matter of moments, only the Chaos Banner remained in Tao River, carrying Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable's damaged true spirit, as the immortal blood she originally had fell into Ling Shao Heavenly Venerate's possession. Xing Yu Heavenly Venerable grew increasingly upset, her damaged true spirit swiftly returning to her main body. She again wielded the Chaos Banner, charging at Ling Shao Heavenly Venerate to reclaim the immortal blood. Although the chaotic tide had ended, the existence of immortal blood caused the previously cooperative Crossing Dao Heavenly Venerables to turn against each other. Engaging in mutual slaughter, Qi Yang and Gue Yuan, Xing Yu and Ling Shao, fighting until the heavens cracked, chaos crumbled, the Tao River stretching billions of miles boiling over into chaos. However, amid this fierce battle, there was one unbothered outsider. Elsewhere in Tao River, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate tapped a spell, seemingly deducing something, occasionally stepping toward a particular direction before pausing on the spot, continuing to calculate. He was the first Crossing Dao Heavenly Venerable to die in the immortal tomb, even losing the reincarnation spear. If any Crossing Dao cultivator suffered the greatest loss, it was undoubtedly him. Despite Qi Yang Heavenly Venerable's misfortune, he at least kept his immortal treasure. Dare to steal my reincarnation spear. Su Jie, your death is imminent. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate gritted his teeth, his gaze filled with murderous intent. He refrained from joining the battles of other cultivators, devoting himself to finding his immortal treasure, the reincarnation spear. Although Su Jie snatched it away, Su Jie wasn't a true Crossing Dao cultivator. Ningxuan left tricks on the reincarnation spear to locate it, though it required time. He was determined to make Su Jie understand the severity of his cruelty. No one could offend Ningxuan and escape unscathed. Several days later, on the moon, Su Jie slowly awakened from his seclusion, opening his eyes. Swoosh! It was as if two bolts of lightning pierced through the void. The entire lunar landscape trembled with Su Jie's rise, and spiritual energy surged like the sea. It's time to begin, Su Jie murmured to himself. His state had been adjusted to its peak, and it was time to take the final step and achieve the realm of crossing. Sizzle! Squeak! Su Jie handed the thousand-hand centipede and the annual ringworm from his sleeve to Han Ruyan, as he couldn't bring them along for what was to come. My husband, I'll wait for you. Han Ruyan knew what Su Jie was about to do. She didn't try to dissuade him, believing that Su Jie could accomplish it. All right, Su Jie nodded, his gaze sweeping over Ning Yunying. I hope the next time we meet, I can call you Heavenly Venerable. Ning Yunying knew what Su Jie wanted to hear and smiled brightly. Then I'd better listen attentively. Su Jie smiled boldly, waved his hand, tore through the Tao River, and stepped through, disappearing from their sight. Mars! The void door lit up, and Su Jie stepped out from within. Mars is the fourth planet in the solar system, with a diameter about half that of Blue Star and a rotation period similar to Blue Star's. Su Jie stood tall above Mars, surveying the surface littered with impact craters, canyons, dunes, and rubble. The entire planet appeared reddish-orange due to the vast amount of hematite covering it, hence its moniker, the Red Planet. Because of its similarity to Blue Star and Su Jie's prior experience refining the latter, he chose Mars as the first stop on his road to crossing. His divine sense swept over Mars like a tidal wave. After confirming its condition, Su Jie did not hesitate. He took out a void bottle and poured out a drop of immortal blood. The crystalline and brilliant immortal blood floated midair, naturally beginning to evaporate into the atmosphere. A magnificent spectacle unfolded as Mars' previously barren, rubble-strewn surface began to be covered by a thin red mat of algal fungi, reminiscent of the blue-green algae in Blue Star's evolutionary history 3.5 billion years ago. These photosynthetic and oxygen-releasing organisms greatly contributed to converting Blue Star's anoxic atmosphere to an oxygen-rich one. Strands of chaos chi began to pervade Mars, birthing all things and evolving further into yin and yang energy, and the five elements' power. Rumble. Heavy clouds began to gather over Mars, with streaks of lightning splitting the sky and blinding flashes of electricity striking continuously. For the first time, this dead, desolate planet experienced natural phenomena like thunderstorms, bringing rain, the source of life. The torrential downpour roared, with rain connecting heaven and earth, as if a celestial river had overturned. Time appeared compressed by a billionfold. In the lifeblood-laden rain and lightning, tender green shoots broke through the ground, absorbing the chaos chi in the air, rapidly growing. What was once just an algal-covered surface swiftly transformed into a lush ocean of vegetation. Sleek trees reaching hundreds of meters tall formed forests, with herbaceous and fern-like plants spreading below, greedily absorbing sunlight and rain, extracting nutrients from the soil. In Mars' sunken basins, rainwater pooled into lakes and rivers, forming even oceans. Algae and aquatic plants began to appear in these waters. More astonishing was that it wasn't only vegetation appearing on the surface. Accompanied by thunder and rain, prokaryotic life was first born, then rapidly evolved, transitioning from single-celled to multi-celled organisms, eventually evolving into primitive chordates. Various small insects and reptiles emerged on Mars. The evolutionary path of these creatures differed from that of Blue Star. Su Jie observed closely, noting that many animals and plants were rich in iron, with some evolving bones and shells into iron-like forms. Life adapts and evolves according to its environment. Mars' abundant iron deposits allowed these organisms to engage in convergent evolution, absorbing minerals for growth. The widespread hematite iron oxide, often referred to as rust, especially, was heavily absorbed, causing many organisms' surfaces to appear rust-streaked, reminiscent at first glance of rusty mechanical life. These creatures also engaged in fierce competition. Herbivores consumed plants, transferring and absorbing the iron contained within them, promoting the development of their bones and scale armor, forming a thick defensive barrier against carnivores' attacks. Carnivores, in turn, consumed herbivores, transferring the iron-rich flesh and blood into their own systems, granting themselves stronger muscles and bones, with teeth becoming as hard and sharp as steel. Even plants fought for survival by desperately absorbing the 1.5 million trillion tons of iron ore under Mars' surface, making their trunks harder and leaves sharper. Some even grew aggressive buds and vines to attack nearby creatures, siphoning off their nutrients. With just a drop of immortal blood, Mars, an otherwise unremarkable, dead, barren planet in the solar system, experienced an unprecedented explosion of life. The complex ecosystem evolved over billions of years on Blue Star was achieved on Mars in a short time. Even though Su Jie wasn't witnessing this for the first time, he was still dumbfounded. Such power was the grand force wielded by immortals, far beyond Su Jie's current understanding. Su Jie wasn't the only one utterly astounded. Millions of kilometers away on Blue Star, nations that had previously conducted aerospace explorations on Mars were also struck dumb, dizzy with the rapid, sudden changes occurring on Mars. Mars has shown signs of life. Inconceivable, truly inconceivable. Wait, is this really Mars? The scientists were dumbfounded, their eyes nearly falling out of their heads. Through intermittent photos sent back from Mars, they had already discovered the great changes occurring on Mars. As the planet most similar to Blue Star in terms of geology and environment, Mars has always been a major focus of research for the countries of Blue Star. Only the Moon has received more spacecraft launches. Therefore, when changes appeared on Mars, Blue Star quickly received the relevant information, causing chaos among the leadership of various countries and overturning the scientists' worldview. Although many had already witnessed the revival of spiritual energy and the advent of gods, making them question the reliability of science, at least the current science, unable to explain the existence of gods. Yet witnessing such unbelievable changes on Mars still left them feeling bewildered and unable to comprehend. A planet once clearly lifeless, within a short time, had its surface grow forests and vegetation, birthing countless miraculous life forms and species. It must be the work of a god. Only a divine intervention could achieve this. Many scientists' worldviews had collapsed, and some knelt in prayer for divine protection, believing that everything happening on Mars could only be the work of a god. Could it be that we humans know life on Blue Star itself originated in the same way? A scientist spoke with a bitter tone. Once, they had considered stories of God creating the world in 7 days or Nuwa molding humans as mere myths. But now, witnessing Mars' transformation with their own eyes, many began to doubt. Humans thought themselves the spirits of all things, but if this spirit was created by gods, then would not the notion of being the spirits of all things be a joke? All we can do now is maintain the greatest respect for the gods. Many others reflected with bitter smiles, acknowledging the vast and mighty power of the gods, far beyond current human understanding, let alone opposition. Mars. Su Jie did not focus on the chaos his actions brought to many on Blue Star. At this moment, Su Jie was intently observing the evolution of life on Mars, and as the consumption of immortal blood ran its course, the evolution reached its end, with the planet now hosting millions of life forms, constructing a vast biosphere rich in flora and fauna. This is the power of immortal blood. One drop of immortal blood created a life-bearing star. Such great power is far beyond the reach of even the Crossing Dao cultivators. And the immortal blood was brought by Su Jie, so it could be said that all the life on Mars was granted existence by Su Jie. Naturally, a massive amount of heavenly Dao fortune began to descend upon Su Jie, continuously gathering around him. This fortune is extremely vast because Su Jie transformed a barren, lifeless planet into one teeming with life. In time, as the planet evolves further, developing civilization like humans, it would be a tremendous boon. Comparatively, Su Jie's orchestration of the spiritual energy recovery on Blue Star and rejuvenation of the Great Xia dynasty, though beneficial, were lesser transformations, while Mars represented true creation from nothing. Thus, the massive flow of heavenly Dao fortune poured into Su Jie's body, filling his limbs and bones. Refine, Su Jie murmured, spreading the divine soul power, continuously connecting with the heavenly Dao space between Mars and the Tao River layer. This space was a stretch of blazing red clouds, known as the heavenly Dao of Mars. Having refined the Moon and Blue Star before, Su Jie was now adept at this process and continuously used the heavenly Dao fortune to refine this world. Moreover, to the heavenly Dao of Mars, Su Jie was akin to a living saint. Not only was there no resistance to his refinement, but the Mars heavenly Dao actively cooperated with him. Previously, the refinement of the Moon and Blue Star took Su Jie several days, up to a dozen. But in refining Mars, it took only a few short hours for the entire planet to be successfully refined by Su Jie. Rumbling, a thought from Su Jie, and Mars reshaped according to his will. Mountains rose, seas reversed, land split into voids. Yet in an instant, these disasters were smoothed by Su Jie, representing his mastery over the natural authority of Mars, able to wield the planet's powers at will. Around Su Jie, once orbiting, were miniaturized versions of the Moon and Blue Star, now joined by a red interwoven miniaturized Mars. Once Mars was refined, as a result, Su Jie's divine soul began to constantly strengthen, and his neutron combat body also greatly increased in intensity with the refinement of Mars. Everything is just as I expected.
Asmile turvet on Su Jies lips.
The use of immortal blood had many benefits. Consuming it directly was not what Su Jie desired. He had long considered, ever since acquiring the immortal blood, to use it to ignite a planetary explosion of life, then refine the planet with the heavenly Dao fortune to boost his own strength. Although this method was more complex compared to direct consumption, it suited Su Jie better. Reflecting on this, Su Jie curbed his excitement over refining Mars slightly and summoned the Kunlun mirror, starting the operation of the Great Dao heavenly scripture. Under Su Jie's control, the Kunlun mirror spun rapidly, tearing through the Tao River. The immortal treasure exploded with might, extracting numerous Tao divine patterns from the Tao River filled with chaotic chi flow. Su Jie's divine soul also turned into a chaos dharma. Compared to before refining Mars, it was now more real, especially the single whirlpool eye, as if genuinely alive and vivid. Refining Mars had granted Su Jie the heavenly computational power, which had enhanced his divine soul the most. This manifested in the Dharma form as Su Jie's chaos Dharma appeared less illusory, more like a tangible chaos, unsettling to behold. Smash it for me! The Kunlun mirror, under Su Jie's command, wielded the Tao divine patterns with an unrivaled force, slamming them heavily into the chaos dharma. Each profound, chaotic, and eternal Tao divine pattern struck like a nail into the chaos dharma, branding Su Jie's divine soul like a red-hot iron, permanently inseparable. This process naturally entailed extreme pain, as the soul was often the most fragile and sensitive area of the human body, and the immortal treasure, the strongest weapon of the age, was like stabbing the thinnest shield with the sharpest spear, unsurprisingly bringing unparalleled pain to Su Jie. Su Jie's facial features twisted in agony, veins bulging, and sweat pouring like rain. Yet, regardless of the intense pain, Su Jie never abandoned his actions, consistently controlling the Kunlun mirror to pound in the Tao divine patterns. Because Su Jie clearly understood that this was the inevitable path to becoming a crossing Tao cultivator. To achieve this, one must transform the divine soul into true spirit and integrate the true spirit with the Tao river. And to transform into a true spirit, Su Jie needed to have over 50% of the Chaos Dharma's surface covered with Tao divine patterns, considered the minimum threshold. Achieving this is not easy. One requirement is an immortal treasure, and the other is a sufficiently strong divine soul to accommodate more Tao divine patterns. Having just refined Mars, Su Jie had already reached the limit of accommodating Tao divine patterns. Now, with an enhanced divine soul, more Tao divine patterns could be incorporated, making any pain trivial compared to achieving the status of a crossing Tao cultivator. Bang! 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 With each strike of the Kunlun mirror, the number of Tao divine patterns embedded in the Chaos Dharma increased further. When all was completed, the Tao divine patterns emitted spiritual charm, illuminating heaven and earth. The Chaos Dharma, empowered by the Tao divine patterns, as the single eye blinked, seemed akin to the catastrophic brilliance of a supernova explosion, its towering form akin to majestic mountains and great rivers, wings becoming clouds overshadowing the sky, generating deadly strong winds that shattered the void. Previously, the Chaos Dharma was covered with 25% Tao divine patterns, now it surged to 30%, for Mars did not possess as much mass as Blue Star. When Su Jie refined Blue Star, he acquired a 10% increase. Nonetheless, Su Jie's smile never waned. For Mars was just the beginning. Su Jie's ultimate goal is the entirety of the solar system's planets. Ah, solar system, Yarikome. Su Jie rubbed his hands eagerly, his eyes filled with anticipation. With hundreds of drops of immortal blood at his disposal, Su Jie was thus audacious. The biggest roadblock in refining planets is the heavenly Tao fortune, incredibly accessible for Su Jie, who harnesses immortal blood. Now, nothing can impede Su Jie's path of progress. There are 8 major planets in the solar system. Since refining Mars and tempering the Tao divine patterns, Su Jie had once again arrived at Mercury, repeating the process he performed on Mars. Next was Venus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Apart from Mercury and Venus, the other 3 planets are extremely large, but because they are gas giants, their internal structures are divided into outer atmospheres, layers of liquid metallic hydrogen, etc., lacking a definite solid surface and harsh conditions for life to emerge. Thus, refining these gas giants didn't grant Su Jie much heavenly Tao fortune. However, considering the accumulation from Venus and Mercury, the Tao divine patterns gathered in Su Jie's Chaos Dharma form now covered over 50% of his body surface, reaching the minimum requirement for transforming into a true spirit. Others might choose to complete the transformation at this point. After all, achieving true spirit and merging with the Tao river allows one to become a crossing Tao cultivator, standing at the pinnacle of the world, a pursuit countless cultivators dream of. But Su Jie chose not to do that. He wanted more than just to ascend to a crossing Tao cultivator. Even if he ascended, he wanted to be the strongest among the crossing Tao cultivators. Fortunately, his greatest asset and confidence was the immortal blood in his possession. Refining the planets Mars, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune didn't even consume 10 drops of immortal blood, which was negligible to Su Jie. Without pausing his planetary refining, after refining those planets, he arrived at the last planet in the solar system and began his refining work. In the outer cosmos of Jupiter, Su Jie stood firm, eyes fixed on this dirt-gray giant planet. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system with a mass 318 times that of Blue Star, and though it is also a gas giant, it consumed a full 10 drops of immortal blood. All these efforts led to the birth of planetary life on this massive gas giant. On Jupiter's surface, covered by thick clouds of brown and white, some life forms leaped and chased each other. These life forms seemed composed of some gaseous elements without a solid body, or only a small part was solid. Most of their bodies were constructs of hydrogen and helium clouds, capable of living at temperatures of -145 degrees Celsius. The structure of these gaseous life forms is relatively simple, ranging from palm size to a few hundred meters in size, adhering to the jungle law of survival of the fittest. They compete with big fish eating small fish and small fish eating shrimp, much like any other ecosystem. Refine! Su Jie uttered a low command, observing Jupiter for a moment before beginning its refinement. A massive influx of heavenly Tao fortune poured down, which Su Jie absorbed and began refining the largest planet in the solar system. This refining process took Su Jie a full 10 hours, during which his divine soul was greatly enhanced, surpassing all previous enhancements. Although the number of life forms birthed by the planetary environment was small, their intensity was unparalleled, given the planet's sheer mass, costing Su Jie a full 10 drops of immortal blood. Su Jie summoned the Kunlun mirror, his divine soul transforming into the Chaos Dharma form. Using the immortal treasure's might, he extracted Tao divine patterns from the Tao River and imprinted them heavily onto his Chaos Dharma form. This time, Su Jie aimed to cover the entirety of his Chaos Dharma form with Tao divine patterns. The intense pain rushed forth, but as he continued, Su Jie began to grow accustomed, focusing intently on tempering the Tao divine patterns. Time silently slipped away amidst such cultivation. Moon. While Su Jie was busy ascending to a crossing Tao cultivator, Han Ruyan was not idle. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, a drop of immortal blood hovered at her brow, its essence continually absorbed by the blood-colored wedding dress, gradually enhancing her divine soul strength. This immortal blood had been processed, not the original immortal blood, making its vast energy absorbable by Han Ruyan. During this process, Han Ruyan wielded the reincarnation spear, tearing the void of the Tao River, extracting Tao divine patterns from the chaos. Subsequently, the spear tip of the reincarnation spear would envelop these extracted Tao divine patterns and smash them straight down toward Han Ruyan. Boom! 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 Thunderous roars echoed in the void as one Tao divine pattern after another was hammered into her blood-colored wedding dress by the reincarnation spear. Han Ruyan frowned, biting her silver teeth, enduring the soul pain with great strength. This endurance of pain naturally had its rewards. As seen, the blood-colored wedding dress now displayed Tao divine patterns exuding an immortal, mysterious aura, highlighting Han Ruyan's extraordinary presence. As the Ain Ruin's ghost, Han Ruyan stood at the pinnacle of the Void Realm. To cross into the crossing Tao cultivator threshold, she also needed to refine Tao divine patterns. However, unlike humans, ghosts do not possess souls and bodies. Han Ruyan chose to engrave Tao divine patterns onto her blood-colored wedding dress. Over the past few days, Han Ruyan had only just begun refining Tao divine patterns, covering just 10% of her blood-colored wedding dress. A long path still lay ahead. The thousand-hand centipede and the annual ringworm were lying on the other side, absorbing the power of immortal blood, integrating the immortal blood gene, further tempering their insect bodies. Lacking any immortal treasures, they could only look on at Han Ruyan, having to patiently queue for their turn to refine Tao divine patterns for enhancement. After concluding her cultivation temporarily, Han Ruyan had reached the divine soul's limit for accommodating Tao divine patterns and could refine no more. Her originally fair face was now slightly pale, but her overall condition was excellent. The refining of Tao divine patterns had crystallized her future path. Immortal treasures are truly extraordinary. This is the key to ascending to crossing Tao cultivator. Ning Yunying sat across from Han Ruyan, having just watched Han Ruyan's entire cultivation process. She was also using immortal blood to practice the 10,000 Tribulations Nirvana technique, with its domineering energy constantly impacting her limbs and bones. Her physical body and divine soul were rejuvenated through repeated destruction, gaining strength with each collapse. At this moment, Ning Yunying was confident that she could defeat even a top-tier great emperor within 10 moves. However, Ning Yunying knew that even if she practiced the 10,000 Tribulations Nirvana technique to its limit, it was impossible to break through the ultimate boundary. She needed to use the immortal treasure to peel off the Tao Divine patterns to fuse with herself unless she could separate her physical body from the Tao Divine patterns. Such a feat is difficult even for crossing Tao cultivators, and if she could achieve this, they wouldn't be her match, making ascension irrelevant. If my husband ascends to crossing Tao smoothly this time, the Kunlun mirror could assist you in refining the Tao Divine patterns. Han Rian spoke indifferently, knowing that had Su Jie not snatched the reincarnation spear from Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, she wouldn't have been able to refine the Tao Divine patterns at this moment. As Ning Yunying was about to speak, she suddenly sensed something, her expression changing drastically. Watch out! In the next moment, the Tao River was pierced through, and a massive hand, larger than the moon, appeared, reaching down toward the moon, intent on crushing Han Ruyan and shattering the moon into pieces. Han Ruyan sprang up, her wedding dress transforming into a blood-colored curtain, covering the sky dome. The Tao Divine patterns shone, blocking the massive hand. Boom! With one strike, the blood-colored wedding dress was nearly torn apart, its indentation forming a massive handprint. Spurt! Han Ruyan's face turned pale as she coughed up blood. If she hadn't successfully refined the Tao Divine patterns, her wedding dress would have been pierced through by that strike. At this moment, the attacker finally revealed himself. It was the seeking Mingxian Emperor. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Ning Yunying's face was utterly grim, recognizing him as the first to be killed in the Tomb of Immortals, who was also a past owner of the Reincarnation Spear. Unlike the appearance in the Tomb of Immortals, now Mingxian was no longer a mere physical shell but in true spirit state, which is the peak form of a crossing Tao cultivator, incomparable to the physical body shell. A bunch of sneaky rats. Finally found you. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's expression was icy, his eyes flashing with murderous intent upon seeing the Reincarnation Spear in Han Rian's hand and the shining Tao Divine patterns on the blood-colored wedding dress. Using my Reincarnation Spear to refine Tao Divine patterns. What audacity! You really think the Reincarnation Spear is yours? All of you, come die. Before finishing his sentence, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate was already close, unleashing a blood-colored fist force that shattered the surrounding void, the chaotic chi flow surging like a tide. With just one punch, the blood-colored wedding dress was completely torn apart, and the momentum didn't stop. The fist force only shrank by a circle. Its power looked like it could not only smash the moon into fragments but also pierce through Blue Star's core, shattering Blue Star into pieces, turning it into cosmic dust. However, this greatly diminished the punch's power, finally being dissipated completely under the power of time from the annual ringworm. Han Ruyan gripped the Reincarnation Spear, swiftly counterattacking Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, curse power infused into the spear, piercing the void. Boom! The instant the punch force collided with the spear, the Reincarnation Dream exploded. But Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate was too familiar with the Reincarnation Spear. A cold smile gracing his lips, the next moment his true spirit rippled, seemingly an immovable mountain, uninfluenced by the Reincarnation Spear. This was also because Han Ruyan's limited power could not fully unleash the spear's might. Yet, as Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate battled the Reincarnation Spear, a wave of curse power quietly spread. Several corpse spots appeared on Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's face, although the curse power was instantly detected by him. Humph! Petty trick! With a cold hum akin to heavenly sound, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's aura burst forth, the curse collapsing and dissolving instantly. However, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's face was unsightly, for he could not believe he was affected by Han Ruyan's curse power, even though such a curse could not harm him in the slightest, inciting his anger. As a crossing Tao cultivator, Being influenced by a void ghost was extremely humiliating. Mingxian Heavenly Venerate struck with both hands, unleashing a series of bloody fist forces, intending to completely resolve Han Ruyan this time. However, as Mingxian Heavenly Venerate sought to deal with Han Ruyan, the others wouldn't just watch idly. Ha! Ning Yunying stood tall, transforming into a streak of golden light, colliding with a bloody fist force in an instant. The unparalleled power made her bones begin to fracture. Crackle! The thousand-handed centipede returned to its original form, fearlessly soaring into the sky, but was shattered by this punch. Vast swathes of scale armor and flesh turned into mush, dyeing the sky dome crimson. The annual ringworm disrupted Mingxian Heavenly Venerate with the power of time, but for a true spirit, the impact of the power of time was negligible. Even if there was a momentary gap, it wasn't enough for Ning Yunying to break through the defense. She struggled immensely against the fist forces. Han Ruyan, expressionless, charged to the front of Mingxian Heavenly Venerate. Wielding the reincarnation spear, she was the strongest in combat prowess on the scene, but this time the opponent was truly terrifying. "Are you sure you know how to use the reincarnation spear against me?" Mingxian Heavenly Venerate sneered mockingly, pushing with one hand. The reincarnation spear trembled, almost flying out of Han Ruyan's hands. But even so, the powerful force transmitted shattered Han Ruyan's sleeve, leaving her eyes dazed for a moment. Roar! The thousand-handed centipede opened its bloody maw, its tens of thousands of miles-long body twisting, its mouth gathering the power to shatter the void, aiming to grind Mingxian Heavenly Venerate into pieces. Had it been any other Emperor Dongshu, they would only dodge when faced with the frenzied thousand-handed centipede, never daring to confront it head-on. Yet Mingxian Heavenly Venerate didn't retreat a step, eyes coldly swinging his fists, launching continuous assaults. One by one, pale corpse hands shattered in an instant. The gigantic body of the thousand-handed centipede was nearly split in half. Its body, comparable to a spiritual treasure, couldn't withstand such force. The colossal insect body constantly burst with blood under the onslaught, utterly unable to resist. Suddenly, Mingxian Heavenly Venerate abruptly turned, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, reaching out to stop a fist coming his way. It was Ning Yunying taking the opportunity to attack from behind, but Mingxian Heavenly Venerate had noticed her long ago. Ning Yunying's eyes were cold, the 10,000 dragon pearls suspended above her head. Empowered with the power of 10,000 dragons, the blood within her veins surged like roaring rivers and seas, her punches and kicks forcefully striking, causing the void to wail and shatter. Mingxian Heavenly Venerate extended one hand, as if strolling leisurely, effortlessly blocking all of Ning Yunying's attacks with one hand, while still being able to unleash fist forces with the other, preventing Han Ruyan and the thousand-handed centipede from approaching. Ning Yunying's heart sank. If not for the annual ringworm using the power of time to occasionally halt Mingxian Heavenly Venerate's movements, she wouldn't have held on for so long. The 10,000 Tribulations Nirvana technique? Do you really think it can challenge Crossing Dao? Mingxian Heavenly Venerate taunted, opening his mouth to expel an unrivaled sword chi, piercing through Ning Yunying's chest. Immediately, Mingxian Heavenly Venerate launched a punch, blasting Ning Yunying entirely back to the moon. This was the might of Crossing Dao. A casual engagement left Han Ruyan, Ning Yunying, the thousand-handed centipede, and the annual ringworm, the 4 top-tier cave void practitioners, severely wounded and struggling to withstand. Cough, cough. Ning Yunying couldn't stop coughing up blood. A ghastly blood hole pierced through her chest, feeling the gap between herself and a Crossing Dao cultivator. No wonder it was said that the 10,000 Tribulations Nirvana technique could challenge Crossing Dao cultivators, but those who did always ended up miserably. It was indeed true. The actual combat power disparity was too great. A few Void Realm ants dare to covet my immortal treasure? Absolutely reckless. Let your Su Jie come out. What? Hiding out of fear. Mingxian Heavenly Venerate stood with hands behind his back, considering the recent exchanges not even a warm-up. The Cave Void realm was still but the Cave Void, vastly different from a Crossing Dao cultivator. I heard you were looking for me. At that moment, a cold voice rang out, A void door behind Mingxian Heavenly Venerate flickered, and a large hand emerged from it, finally showing up. "Watch me." Mingxian Heavenly Venerate recognized Su Jie's voice, a cruel smile just forming on his face when suddenly his expression shifted. The power akin to a falling star erupted, sending his body uncontrollably flying backward, a handprint denting his chest, his features twisted and deformed by the immense force. In the next moment, the void door closed, and Su Jie stepped out, surrounded by miniature stars orbiting him. The starlit divine light behind him was magnificent, as if the heavenly emperor had descended.
Su Jie.
Ningxuan ignored his wounds. In just a few breaths, the fist imprint Su Jie had blasted out was fully restored, with no visible injuries. He was not in a physical body state but a true spirit form at the moment, which was somewhat immortal, healing quickly. Seeing Su Jie's appearance, Ningxuan was not angry but glad. He was not afraid of Su Jie's strong combat power. No matter how strong, Su Jie could not be a match for his crossing Dao cultivator self. What he feared was Su Jie hiding and not daring to show up. Trying to find someone in the vastness of the universe was like finding a needle in a haystack. "Ningxuan, old ghost, daring to touch my people? You're quite arrogant." Su Jie glared coldly at Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, his eyes edge glancing at Han Ruyan and others. They all had varying injuries. He was in the midst of cultivation when he sensed the battle on the moon and rushed back at first notice. Buzz! The thousand-hand centipede shrank its body and leaped in front of him, glaring angrily at Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, complaining and accusing Su Jie of the bullying it faced. "Su Jie, be careful. This time the opponent is in a true spirit body." Ning Yuning spoke up to remind him. She was unsure of Su Jie's plan, but she did not think Su Jie could win against Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate from mere confrontation. "Husband, this person is after the reincarnation spear," Han Ruyan said with a grave expression, concerned from brief exchanges with Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. She understood the power of the crossing Dao cultivator far exceeded that of an Emperor Dongshu. She was unsure of Su Jie's current state. Although Su Jie previously went out for cultivation to prepare for crossing Dao realm ascension, his current state seemed unlike someone achieving the crossing realm. "No matter. This guy is here to die, and I'll fulfill that." Su Jie showed not a hint of fear, even against a genuine crossing Dao cultivator. "On the brink of death, how dare you be so arrogant? This is your turf, right? Today, if you dare to escape, I'll destroy every living being here along with the world." Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's eyes were cold, his gaze sweeping over the blue planet behind Su Jie. He knew Su Jie had the Kunlun mirror. If Su Jie intended to flee, he might not be able to catch him, especially without the immortal treasure reincarnation spear in hand. "Escape!" Su Jie laughed as if hearing a joke, walking step by step towards Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate and signaling Han Ruyan and others not to join the upcoming battle. He laughed. "You actually think I would flee? Do you truly believe crossing Dao cultivators are invincible? Do you fancy yourself an immortal? To handle you, I'm more than enough alone, and I hope during the battle, you'll remain confident." "Arrogant!" Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's face contorted in rage. Alive for 1,000,000 years, being belittled by Su Jie, who was far younger, inflamed his anger. "I acknowledge you've reached Emperor Dongshu's apex, but without achieving crossing realm, you're just an ant. Even if armed with an immortal treasure, merely a stronger ant still. Today, I'll show you the gap between us." Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's gaze grew ruthlessly murderous, focusing on Su Jie's arrogant figure, his right hand spreading open like an eagle's claw. Crack! The void began to shatter inch by inch, with extreme darkness spreading, obliterating all matter and energy to its origins, erasing them with primordial death, attributing meaning to lifeless things. The attack speed was swift. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate locked onto Su Jie, leaving no room for dodging, intending to slay him in one blow. Death's aura surged toward him, yet Su Jie's face showed no panic. Without deploying the Kunlun Mirror immortal treasure, he also swung his fist. Magnetic Field Rotation Fist. Su Jie called out. Terrifying gravity burst from his fist. The Great Success Neutron Combat Body Punch distorted even light. Both were supreme warriors, colliding instantly with fists and feet intertwined, smashing together like thousands of milliseconds, altering every law and matter within the battleground center, forming a black hole swallowing everything nearby. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate grew more uneasy fighting, his brows furrowed, amazed at Su Jie's formidable combat body. Your combat body technique is impressive. Is this your self-proclaimed means of resisting me? Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate suddenly ceased, emitting faint glows throughout, becoming transparently lit, turning into a luminous white figure, body seemingly made of particles. Upon examining closely, his body was entirely light-formed, with Tao divine texts imprinted internally, forming a circulation within. With this transformation, the surrounding space fractured continually, chaos chi permeating every inch, as Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate forcibly dragged a portion of the Tao River into reality. This was not merely opening a crack to the Tao River but directly bringing part of it into the present world. This was Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's complete true spirit form. Prior skirmishes were merely trifling to him. Playtime's over. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate snorted coldly, his eyes bursting with divine light, piercing his own body directly. The mighty neutron combat body seemed as fragile as paper. Su Jie slowly lowered his head to look at the two holes bleeding from his chest, seemingly unsurprised. When he raised his head again, a mass of light gathered suddenly in front of him, forming the body of Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, who launched a punch at Su Jie. With this punch, regardless of how strong Su Jie's neutron combat body is, it can be pierced through with a single punch. Faced with this attack, Su Jie seemed petrified and did not move at all. Han Ruyan and Ning Yunying, along with others, watched anxiously. However, they were too far away to offer any help in time. Swish! At this moment, an equally brilliant translucent light appeared in front of Su Jie, colliding with Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Boom! An invisible black hole erupted in the gap between the collision, followed by a supersonic explosion that broke apart the material, as space energy disintegrated. When did you? Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate seemed to have seen something unbelievable, his eyes widening in shock. Amidst the breaking black hole, a chaos dharma, as tall as mountains, with wings like hanging clouds and a single swirling eye, soared out from the darkness. This was Su Jie's chaos dharma, a weapon condensed by his divine soul. Of course, such a dharma was not worth Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's amazement. What truly shocked him was the surface of this chaos dharma, covered with innumerable Tao divine patterns, covering every inch without exception. As a crossing Tao cultivator, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate certainly understood what this represented. This was a full layer of Tao divine patterns with a coverage rate reaching 100%, a feat he had never achieved. When he had first ascended to the crossing realm, his dharma only had a coverage of around 60 to 70% of Tao divine patterns. Once the chaos dharma emerged, its wings fluttered, and the Tao divine patterns shiningly extinguishing the terrifying chaotic strong wind, completely blowing away the surrounding black holes to reveal Su Jie's original neutron combat body physical body. At this moment, the physical body had already become a shell, and the true combat power now resided entirely within this chaos dharma covered fully in Tao divine patterns. Before coming to assist, Su Jie had completely refined Jupiter and used his newly enhanced divine soul to refine the Tao divine patterns, bringing their quantity to an unprecedented level. The chaos dharma's coverage rate of Tao divine patterns reached 100%, far exceeding the minimum requirement of 50% for transcending true spirit, with every part of the dharma entirely enveloped in Tao divine patterns, leaving no extra space. I cannot let you live. The more Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate looked, the more uneasy he felt, his face turning resolute. He knew that in Su Jie's current state, there was a possibility of his divine soul transforming into true spirit at any moment. Finally, if Su Jie were to merge the true spirit into the Tao River, a brand new crossing Tao cultivator would be born, and this was something Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate absolutely could not allow. By then, what would he have to defeat Su Jie wielding the Kunlun Mirror? The hope for reclaiming his reincarnation spear would become exceedingly bleak. A sense of foreboding arose in his heart, intensifying his murderous intent. Rumble. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's power erupted, his whole body glowing. The rules of the Tao River descended suddenly, stirring countless layers of chaotic qi flow, altering all physical laws of reality, applying unspeakable pressure to engulf Su Jie's mind and body. Bang! Su Jie flapped his wings, like a mountain sea beast soaring in the ocean. The Tao divine patterns began to emanate dazzling halos, swaying like stars. The swirling eye blinked with Su Jie, unleashing a light of cosmic extinction, tearing through the billion-mile Tao River, and attacked Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. With a composed demeanor, Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate caught Su Jie's light with one hand, disappearing on the spot. The next moment, the boundless chaos river ran wild. Countless waves surged upwards, forming a terrifying twisted mouth that aimed to swallow Su Jie whole. Simultaneously, Su Jie felt a terrible pressure envelop him, as if he was a lone leaf boat struggling in fierce winds and waves, always at the brink of capsizing. His ability hit hard by the chaotic waves, reduced to less than 30%, and even that might be optimistic. Su Jie vaguely understood that this must be the power exerted when True Spirit and Tao River merged, allowing True Spirit to transform into the Tao River, borrowing the power of the Tao to suppress all creatures below True Spirit. Even though Su Jie's Dharma was fully covered with Tao divine patterns, since he had not truly transcended, he could not resist this power. Fortunately, Su Jie had his own countermeasures. Since Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate had True Spirit, Su Jie also possessed something the other didn't. The next moment, as the chaotic maw descended, the Kunlun Mirror suddenly manifested, emitting incredibly dazzling energy waves, calming all rampaging chaotic tidal waves back to tranquility, even causing that giant maw to disassemble continuously. Su Jie urged the Tao divine patterns of the Chaos Dharma to the utmost limit and merged them with the Kunlun Mirror, activating this immortal treasure to unleash terrifying might. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's glowing figure suddenly appeared above the Chaos Dharma, attempting to ambush Su Jie, his body emitting sword qi with each capable of piercing planets, slicing through vast reaches of void. Swish, swish, swish. At this point, the Kunlun Mirror exerted its dominance, its surface seeming to become a black hole, emitting powerful suction, absorbing all sword qi. Immediately, those sword qi shot back from the Kunlun Mirror, aiming at Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate. Damn! Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's expression turned extremely unpleasant, hastily dodging. My wife, the spear! Su Jie suddenly spoke, and Han Ruyan, who was observing the battle, tossed the reincarnation spear over to the Chaos Dharma. Ming Xian, today I want to see how you compete with me. Su Jie laughed heartily, with the Kunlun Mirror and reincarnation spear floating around the Chaos Dharma, empowered by Tao divine patterns. Their commanding presence shook the heavens, and their dominance spread throughout the solar system, continuously expanding outward. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's eyes twitched, fuming with rage. The reincarnation spear was his, yet now it was being used by Su Jie against him. But before he could react, Su Jie's attack had already surged over. The Kunlun Mirror reflected Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, its reflection casting hazy glows, like an independent world's reflection. Layers of image began to disintegrate. Ningxuan's limbs began to invert and warp, followed by his torso, seemingly about to be erased from reality. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate was shocked deep in his heart, rapidly mobilizing the Tao River's power to suppress Kunlun Mirror's eroding might. Meanwhile, Su Jie did not halt. Amidst Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's disarray, the reincarnation spear thrust outward. Layers upon layers of dreams unfolded, even disrupting the flow of time. A moment of trance befell Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, his vision inverting as though revisiting his youthful days when he first ventured into cultivation. Daddy, what are we learning today? Along a timeline, a tender-looking, Still childlike Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate lifted his head and asked his father. Today we'll learn spear technique. The father wore a gentle smile, retrieving a long spear from the weapon rack. Great! Spear techniques are so cool. Just as young Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate began to cheer, he saw his father suddenly grab the spear and thrust it fiercely at him. D! A deafening roar made young Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's smile freeze on his face. His father abruptly turned into Su Jie, revealing a grisly and terrifying expression, mercilessly piercing his heart with a spear, nailing him to the ground. The past timeline twisted and began collapsing, leaving young Ningxuan's heart only with Su Jie's grisly, brutal grin. In the real world, Su Jie's spear pierced out. Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's body suddenly froze in place without moving, followed by a massive drop in his aura. Strangely, a gaping hole appeared at his heart, penetrating through, unable to heal. Dad, why did you kill me? Damn it! Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate's eyes showed confusion and terror at first, but he quickly regained clarity from the timeline and raged beyond measure, his body continuously retreating. With the power of reincarnation, the reincarnation spear could also manipulate timelines, slaying opponents from the past. Although the recent strike didn't kill Ningxuan Heavenly Venerate, it surely wounded him seriously, his aura plummeting. Even in true spirit state, such an immortal treasure's injury isn't something easily healed at his whim.